time once again for some League of Legends mayhem here on the LCO. Of course, we got another day of fun, another day of the group stage, and today it's going to be that little bit longer because we got 2 big games and 4 big egos, big characters here on the couch as well to bring you all the action.
Massive ego.
Short King over here, just letting everyone know that it's okay.
Look at the danglers. Look at the danglers. He can't reach.
Trying to sit all the way back. These seats have like an insane amount of depth on them. Kitty, look, you're sitting forward, but
No, I'm not. I'm
Kitty
this
is
tall.
no, you're not.
Kitty is
I'm in
7
fact
foot.
6'4", so yeah.
11.
Sorry, don't.
Okay.
I'm not short, so I don't know what you're talking about.
By the way, look, it's unfortunate for me over here, but it was also unfortunate for Kanga yesterday. They copped an L. Let's have a quick look back at what went down yesterday before we jump into the action today.
Loosies are being done.
Well, here could be an opportunity presented right now. Call the Forge goes out, and that is a one-man stun onto Benzi, who still lives and still survives. Ultimately, Mammoth has to flash for it, but the casualty is so high. Lived as Cyan has picked up a double kill.
Flash trying to get out to safety. Hooper. Big trouble.
Big ult, and that's the follow-up damage there as Hooper is in a world of trouble so far. Daystar body slamming across the wall, and the kill confirmed with that fadeaway barrel. And what more could you ask for with an ace at only 9 minutes in?
They know exactly where Mayfun is and why not. Still here, level 6, no flash.
Instant cleanse out there from Hooper, well played. Top of the hill also burnt too to try and turn this one around, but TB continue to press on forward, find their Sejuani passive, find Hooper, and they trade out ult, but the Axe gets it done. Draven with the double kill, and now Mayfun comes in and says, can I 1v3? He can't even find one Rusty, and that is a tragedy.
And the
This Herald is going down to the wire right now. Mayfun's already jumped across the wall, so the eye is not looking too good for them. Down to 70, that's to be picked up by Bliss now. The fight breaks out afterwards, and Shiggy's in a world of pain. Moonlight Vigil cleaving onto Free with the blue weapon, and Hooper right now untouched, but ultimately Daystar is just chilling in the corner. And it's
Well, an interesting and quick day yesterday. Probably the fastest day we may have ever had on the LCO because we haven't had just a single best of 3. It's always been best of 5s. But we got a lot going on. And of course, look, we can have a quick look at the brackets as well to recap what went down. Kanga, look, unfortunately going to be moving down to that lower bracket in Group B. But we're here in Group A and we get to see PGG and Mammoth play today. Of course, Direwolves, they got that bye yesterday, so they are moving on into the upper bracket. And I think the good thing to note here as well is even if you lose today's game, you will move forward. But, you know, let's say, theoretically, Mammoth lose this game. They're not going to be going into round 1 because they got that bye, so they're going straight into lower bracket round 2, which means that they might instantly almost have a rematch with PGG, depending on how Direwolves is feeling after having a couple of weeks off and missing a whole patch.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting bracket to watch because of those automatic buys, right? Direwolves being able to essentially skip an entire patch as well. Have a lot of time after that 2-week break. They get a whole extra week to just sit in the kitchen and cook up some spicy drafts for their opponents, who may be Pentnet or Mammoth.
Speaking of patches, I saw that Jungle might be saved after the next patch coming through, but I guess we'll see if that happens. Either way, let's jump on into Group B. We got Team Bliss with that win yesterday, of course, staying in the upper bracket. Kanga, we might be saying goodbye to them tomorrow, and today we figure out who's going down to that lower bracket to join them. Chiefs and GZ is going to be that second game of the day at 8 PM. And look, it's a great form check. Chiefs having a couple of losses to some of those teams. One was Kanga, right, towards the final game. Some things went wrong for them, but I'm sure that they're here with a vengeance to try to come off the technical loss streak at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you come into this one, right, and you definitely see that there are some heavy favourites, 2 LCO champions of old coming into this one, but anything has been proven to occur. So as competitive as the split has been,
yeah,
you look at this one and imagine maybe it is just going to be the easy 2-0, but I'd imagine on a brand new patch and with a few weeks off, there could be a little bit of spice to try and upset the balance one more time.
Well, these 4 teams have had a few weeks off. It's going to be their first game after the break. And look, 5 PM is when we're going to have this first game. That's going to be Pentnet up against Mammoth, which will be an interesting affair. And of course, at 8 PM, we have the Chiefs and Ground Zero going head-to-head. Tiny note as well, of course, these games can't start before the assigned time, so no, we're not going to start the game early for this first game at 5 PM. It will be on at 5 PM, and the Chiefs and Ground Zero, they can't start at 7 if it is a fast first game. It will start at 8, so you'll have time, if it's a fast one, to, you know, go to the gym, have dinner, order some menu log, you know, do what you need.
So you're telling me that Castles don't actually start the game?
Yeah, we actually hold everyone in Twitch chat hostage until we decide Champion Select starts. So for everyone who says start the game already, you're actually delaying the game every single time. I just
No
thought you should know
way!
that.
So don't say it right
It's
now.
your fault.
I challenge you not to
It's your
type that in
fault.
Twitch chat right
my
now.
fault.
Or we might have to delay this first game. It could happen. It could happen. Huh? Do you want that?
Don't
Yeah.
act up.
This is a test. This is a test. How many of you failed? We don't know because we're coming at you from the future. But I'm sure there was at least one person that failed. And to you, naughty. Naughty. Look, let's
Tell
move
he's
this
a dog
conversation
owner.
forward.
Just from the way that you scold someone as a dog owner, it's naughty.
Naughty.
It's the only
Bad.
word.
Bad
No.
dog. Either way, look, we've got a little conversation to have. And essentially these games today are going to be a bit of a form check, mostly for Chiefs, mostly for PGG, to see who's looking hotter coming out of the break, because we are expecting them both to get wins today on paper. But it's also about, you know, how consistent they can look moving into these best of threes, because you've heard it from them all through that round robin stage. They're saying, you know, we excel when it gets to these best of threes, when it gets to these best of series, and now's that time. So who do you think is going to look slightly more consistent?
Yeah, I mean, coming into this split, it's always been very interesting because this is probably the first time where we have a bit of a question mark when it comes to who will be placing where in terms of the top of the standings, because all of our super teams have at least lost to a team that has been below them, especially with PG and Chiefs playing tonight. Well, Chiefs has been looking a little bit more shaky compared to their previous years, and PGG, we had a lot of expectations for the returning players like Chippies, like Fire. However, they also had that inconsistency up against teams like Team Bliss.
They certainly did. Any takes on the scenario we're currently in with these two teams?
I mean, just that as well as it being like those two teams, we're watching them effectively parallel play in different brackets. They won't be able to meet each other until a final when that does occur, if they are to meet again. So we're very excited to see if we get that rematch. And then, of course, the combining of the Order Chiefs roster into like a super team, but having seen them flounder so much early, you're expecting a lot of big things after this break for the Chiefs.
A little point as well is when we got to speak to Chaz in that interview yesterday, because we got to speak to Direwolves when they got the bye win, just to, you know, have a quick catch up before they potentially miss another whole bloody week. But at the same time, he said that, you know, PGG they haven't really got too much of a chance to play against them because they've been scrimming overseas teams. You know, in terms of the practice, do you think that that's helping them scrimming the PCS teams, or?
Well, I wonder, because it does appear that the PCS have a bit of a different take on things for the meta. But I guess the point that we all sort of unanimously sort of like arrived at is we want to see the fashion in which these games play out tonight, right? The fact that Chiefs and PGG do have so much experience under the belt compared to basically rookie rosters as their opponents. So all those years of experience, all those years of being in best of threes, best of fives, adaptations, winning titles, all the rest. If they come out and look a little bit hesitant, things don't go according to plan. If it isn't like a dominating 2-0, you do have question marks still, as Kitty mentioned, as to who could be first.
Yeah, that really showcases through PGG specifically with their playstyle. We already had an interview with Fire where he said that PGG was trying to emulate that LPL playstyle-esque, where this is also a result of scrimming in the PCS, where they have parallel playstyles and in terms of meta reads. So it's going to be really interesting on how they bring their take into OC, because we already see how much, I'm going to say a specific pick that we were seeing consistently last night was the Gragas mid lane.
That's true.
And by jungle seems to be super high prior if it wasn't already.
I suspect we'll get that again today as well.
Well, we'll see. We shall see. But for now, I want to see who's been getting all the kills. Who's the top killers in the league? Who's the lady killers? I don't know. Skimmy, you asked for this one. Tell me, what does this all mean? And why's Chippy's up there? Where'd he come from?
Well, he's a bit of a machine. The old Olaf one-trick extraordinaire, if you will. Came into the game, got a quadra kill, nearly got a penta. He absolutely lived for such a long time around that Baron pit entry. But really for me, what this takeaway is, it's just how dominant these two teams are. In particular, the carries for the side of Chiefs. I think Kisei has been in the form of his life right now, farming up solo kills, doing the most damage in games, and coming in, obviously playing these hyper-scaling carries. And actually, you know, the resources are merited with a performance like that. So I think if you're looking at the Chiefs, despite them maybe not having the same high so far, they are still doing the most in the league.
You'd argue that maybe Kisei probably takes the spoilers here, because even though they're a bit further down on the ladder at the moment, Chiefs, you know, coming into the group stage, that 12 kill game that he's got there on the Cass was against Team Bliss, and Team Bliss ended up coming second. So Arguably, probably a bit better than what we're seeing, you know, Chiefs against Mammoth, PGG against Mammoth, against GZ, against Kangar. These are all the teams that are on the bottom half of the table.
Yep, and something else that I want to mention is Raze being there as well. I think he is probably the best ADC to really pilot this Zeri when it comes to the current meta. And something that has been just living in my head rent-free is when you do look at those top plays of the week for other major regions, it's just all Zeri plays. It's like a Zeri montage. So I think when you do have someone that is so good on a champion like Zeri that is extremely broken still in the current meta, these champions shouldn't really go under the radar, and other teams should really start picking this one up.
Now, are we going to see any more Lucian Nami, or is that kind of gone off to the side at the moment?
Oh, Mac.
Where have I been? Have I missed something?
Have you heard of Zeri, Lulu, Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Lulu, Lucian, Nami?
So it's still a bot lane.
Slap was
That's
getting
still the whole...
progressively harder.
There's this frustration. Just get it all out, Kitty. Come on.
Zeri, Yulu. Wait, Yulu?
Wait,
Yumi-
a Varus
Yumi
game?
Lulu is
Wait, a
morphed
Caitlyn
into
game? No,
one.
Zeri, Yumi. Yeah.
The Yulu.
Sorry, Mac.
The Yulu. It's
You'll
alright.
G for him in a second, I tell you
That's
that
right.
much.
I've been going to the gym specifically for this moment to cop all the hate coming out of Hitty. Hitty? There's a new nickname.
Jeez.
Look, by the way,
Hitty Kitty.
Hitty Kitty. Look, from the fans' time, you guys at home, we want to hear today what your permaban is, of course. Hashtag LCO on the Twitter sphere to get those in, but also the tweet is up there over on @LCO, so jump on over there, you'll find it, and then you can just comment underneath. But remember to drop the hashtag because we're pushing the hashtag. We want you to use it. We want to have you in the feeds. And guess what? You guys have already perma-entered your perma-bans. Perma-entered on Twitter. So we got something to have a look at. We got Carbon. That's not Kindred at all.
If you know, you know.
Hey, I don't know. Can I know?
That is good.
We
Can I know?
can't mention the boss man that has this picture as their profile picture, but let's just say Kindred is definitely a permaban in specifically the Oceanic region for X amount of reasons.
Okay.
Bit of
all
a
right.
weapon.
Well, look, if you know, you know. If you
you
like
know,
me,
you know.
you don't. But at the same time, we got Corvi here. Anivia, the champ, can perma-clear waves at late game. It can be pretty annoying to deal with. Also, just hate the Iceberg. Well, look, I feel like if you're getting in ranked to the point where you can perma-clear waves and you have a late game, you're doing pretty well, you know? Congratulations, because you haven't forfeited at bloody 15 minutes like my teammates do.
Yeah, you lost me at getting the late game, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I would never personally ban Anivia, but in this case, Corvi is banning Anvia, so it might be a different champion completely.
Yeah. The unreleased one.
I look forward to seeing who that is, Corvi. Let me know, who is Anvia?
There's no I in team, Rusty. I just want you to know that. Look, Darian Taris, top lane Jax, jungle Nocturne.
I think it's based. That's
This
pretty
is a
based.
base take.
Yeah, but then that means he'd be banning me out because I'm 50-50 on the Nocturne.
We were speaking about this before, though. Nocturne is Elena's nightmare.
Yeah.
So even if I was playing top lane, I'd probably still be banning the Nocturne if I was playing a fragile top lane champion. But so I respect these bans.
Don't want to get dove. Don't want to get dove. And let's have a look at the fourth little entry here. We got JB. I'm loving the recurring people that are coming in on from the fans. There's always, you know, your JB, your Dar, and that Carbon guy. You know, they always seem to at least get theirs in. As a support, Lux. As jungle, Yi. As top, Olaf. And as mid, Yasau.
Guess the rank, Mac.
Yasau.
That's the game we're playing with this one.
Oh,
Guess the rank.
That's silver.
Well, Yi's there, so it's below gold, right? I'd say silver. Top, though, I don't see that much Olaf down in the trenches.
There is some nasty top Olafs.
Okay.
That's for certain. But
Okay.
I don't know JB's rank, so
I'm guessing. Just
I'll say
based
gold.
off Yi and Yas, I'm thinking it's there.
you say gold. I'm just gonna go bronze.
We'll give him gold.
Chuck a
No,
bronze in
I'm
there.
said silver.
JB can
I'm
take
going
it.
iron.
Iron.
We need a follow-up tweet from JB.
Huge.
Yeah, JB,
What is the
look,
rank?
that's
We're
your
covering the bottom
homework.
ranks.
Make it happen. Give us a follow-up. We got a fifth and
Secretly
final
GM.
one.
Yeah.
Our mate Nadette. Shout out Snowball. I was going to say varieties, but my brain has just turned off. Varies depending on meta, but my 100% ban rate is Lux, my main, when I'm not playing it. Understandable. If I'm not playing it, normal. The
You know
issue
what?
is if you ban your main, like the thing is, if you're like a main or like a bit of a one trick on a certain champ, you know what they do. So when you allow someone else to pick it, you should generally have an understanding of how to counter it, you know, where to stand. Your spacing should be just like immaculate, right?
Yeah.
That is
That's my
exactly
take
what a
on it.
Lux main would say. If I'm not having fun, you're not having fun.
That's fair. But also, then you have no champion left to pick.
Yep.
So
What if it's
an
the ideal
interesting
Lux
conundrum.
draft? You've just counterplayed yourself.
Well, and if you guys aren't having fun, then I'm not doing my job right. But let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the first series of the day. PGG, they're first up on the cards. Skimmy, What's Schönfire doing today, huh?
Well, apart from flexing and looking handsome, he's going to be looking to try and showcase something different than the three champions he's played so far, right? It certainly has been Vi on repeat, a bit of a cheeky Elise in there, Wukong if need be, and I'm really curious to see, based on the fact that they have had that advantage of playing in Perth to scrim against some of the other regions, what does that really mean coming into patch 13.3? They've obviously showcased that they've got a flexibility like no other, that Dongi has looked very comfortable in his transition from top lane into mid, boasting the highest KDA in the entire league, 5 deaths and only 6 games played. So I think for me it is a case of coming into this one and using the old phrase of stamping your authority, because Violet really hasn't changed a bit, right? Still is that 1v9 machine, 30% of your team's damage. You give him the resources and he'll give you the win.
Certainly will. Now look, Mammoth on the other hand haven't had as much success throughout that round robin stage, so they are in a bit of a pickle going up against PGG as this first match. But Kitty, tell me, how are they going to get this dub?
Yeah, so when it does come to these best of 3 series, you will get a chance to have side selection, and I think this first pick is going to really matter when it comes to this match up against PGG, because this Vi, we've been saying how much priority that Schönfire has been putting on it, and I think if it does land into the hands of someone like Akano, well, we can be potentially seeing something like the Vi paired up with an aggressive top laner like Rusty has been trying to pray for, something Jace Gwen-esque, and then we also have Silas coming in for the mid lane. Just a lot of early aggression, and there is just so much not low demand, I guess, for playing something like the Vi. I mean, there is that one combo that everyone can't do on OCE, but other than that, you just press ultimate and try to force a really winning play, and you get the ball rolling early.
Well, this is that game where Chippy's managed to get his insane amount of kills as well. That was against Mammoth, and he's got at least 2, maybe 3 games to do it all again today.
But there it is. You can see it happening right before you. Just look how low he gets, completely unnoticed on the flank. But I think, once again, this showcases the fact that he can play something like an Olaf into a comp where you would say for Mammoth, you want to try and draft as much CC as possible, give the ease of execution to be in their favor, right? Something like a Varus, like an Ashe, get an advantage in the bot lane, make sure that, Violet doesn't get too far ahead too early on, but it doesn't really deter them, right? You've certainly got a case where, he can just play the Olaf, hit the ultimate switch and say, you can't touch me.
And the support champion pool has been a lot more interesting nowadays. I mean, we have seen Entrust be a very big fan of this Nautilus. Something like the Leona can also be considered if the ADC does decide to go for something like the Ziggs. But I do want to also mention the priority of Annie support being considered for this new patch. I mean, it can also be flexed to mid, where I'm sure that Dajon will be more than happy to pick it up as well.
I just remember that meta from like last year where there was just so many flex picks in the meta that you'd pick like your first 3, all flex, have no idea where they're going. Then you end up with like a bloody mage, ADC, bloody ADC mid lane, late pick. I hated that.
It's
so hard to...
far off what we are now, Mac, to be honest. Like, if
close.
you think back to the best of 3 yesterday, Kanga got so lost in the flex source, they actually didn't really know what to finish. Yeah, Gragas being played
Where's
multiple
that going?
roles.
Where's that going?
You never know.
Support? Who bloody knows? Someone might know. Chippies, he used to be a coach, he used to be a player, and now he's a player again, and he's bloody good and handsome. Chippies, how you doing? How was your break? Did you relax?
Thanks, pal. Not as handsome as you, but we did relax a bit. Yeah.
Oh.
Caught me off guard.
Oh my god. Well, congratulations on coming into the second stage of LCO. And I mean, you have been, PG's been looking a little bit shaky. So I wanted to just get the feedback that the team has gathered after the 2-week break and how you guys are really approaching this new best of 3.
Yeah, the system we're trying to learn is pretty LPL-esque, where there's a lot of macro and stuff that I've got to learn instead of just rocking up to lane and bashing my opponent's head in. So you saw I looked a bit lost in our last match, so I feel like these past 2 weeks have helped me a lot catch up to speed.
Do you think all the scrims in the SEA region is helping you, and how much is that going to help you today? Like, because Mammoth's obviously, let's say, towards the bottom of the table, obviously coming in on a lower seed here. So are you guys coming in like overconfident today, or do you think you're, giving them a certain amount of respect?
The scrims help a lot for sure. We verse opponents that are just straight up a lot better than all the OS teams, including us. So we never can really get an ego when we're losing majority of our scrims. Even if we win early game, it's like their team fighting's so good. We always have stuff to learn. But so I wouldn't say we're too cocky, but we are sure we're going to win.
When it does come to these team fights, I mean, I think PG has one of the best executions when it comes to the shot callings and when it comes to communication. So I was really wondering who makes these decisive plays, because we saw RP on something like the Rel from previous game up against Dials, and you guys just took over the game.
Yeah, I'd say whoever has the tools makes the calls. Like you saw in that Mammoth game when I had the flank on Olaf, I did most of the comms there, and then Appy on Rel did most of them. So it's just like anyone can do it, whoever's got the tools.
Now, 13.3. Is it something that you're fond of? Do you like all these little tank supports getting buffed? Do you see yourself playing any kind of like Gragas in the top lane? We were talking about these flex picks. Do you have a few of those up your sleeve now, or do you still, you know, want to lean on like the Olaf just so you can do whatever the hell you want?
I always want to play the left, but I don't want to give too much away, but we do have some new tricks up the sleeve. We can't have Shen be a Vi 1 trick the whole season.
Very, very interesting. We can't leak anything just away because we are approaching the best of 3 territory. So best of luck, Chippies. We're all going to be here cheering on for you, and hopefully we get to see that laugh at least one game.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye. See the laugh?
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the best Olaf players, if you've been watching LEC finals as well. G2 picked that one in a game, so there's some Olaf being played around the world.
Ooh.
No reason not to if they give him a composition to play it.
That's what you'll have to see. Now, let's talk mid lane quickly. Of course, we got DeJong, who we'll have a chat to in just a moment. Do we see him excelling today? Because, of course, he's got a pretty big task ahead of him.
It's a tough one because he has been on the receiving end of the majority of their kill share. I think a lot of the time it has been a kind of popping his head into mid lane, finding a kill, getting him ahead. I think that has been a narrative for such a long time. 1 or 2 kills goes his way. I think the biggest criticism we've had is his ability to then utilize that advantage with experience or items to then go elsewhere on the map. So I would love to see either a unique champion come out, if it isn't to be something like the Silas or the Zoe, some way to try and get an advantage over somebody like Dongy that's been so stable.
Well, look, we have him on the line. DeJong, quickly, tell us all your strats. Leak it. Let us know. What are you going to do to Dongy today?
I don't think I can leak too much, but we have a lot of draft prep. I think for all of us, this is our first best of 3, so we'll be as prepared as possible. We've been praying for this a long time, and yeah, should have some interesting picks today.
And talking about draft prep, I mean, you guys are coming in as the underdogs in this best of 3 series. So does that affect the draft prep at all when it does come to the rookies, where you guys are pretty new to this?
Slightly. I mean, they're all very experienced players. They've been in the scene for a long time. They're all very established and currently good players. So I think having that, we can have that little edge if we play champions they're not accustomed to, maybe bring some like instability to the match, which I think always works out in our favor.
Now, how did you prep? Did you lean on your coach to sort of teach you these things? Because I wasn't aware that this was like a lot of you guys' first best of 3. So, you know, were there a lot of, you know, new things you had to learn over the last couple of weeks over this break?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a lot of our coaches came in and boosted. They taught us a lot about like what kind of aspect we have to like expect, I guess. And I guess we'll learn further on if it gets to game 2, and even if it gets to game 3, how like each teams get more accustomed to each other and how we have to adapt to each other more.
That's cool. It's just going to be like you guys learning how to make those adaptations in between the games as well. I'm keen to see how that unfolds today. Now, over towards the bottom lane, it might be a little bit hard, you know, that PGG bottom lane, very, very scary. You know, how's Voice feeling going into this one?
Pretty sure Voice is feeling pretty good. Obviously, we all respect Violet. He's very absolute crazy player, but from what I know, Mammoth had a positive win rate against Peace last year, which was Violet's team, and James I think always did pretty well in those games. So I think he's still feeling pretty confident and he can match up to those players.
We love a bit of crazy for our players, but my last question is that team synergy, because we've seen a lot of team fighting from the side of Mammoth, and I just was really wondering who makes these calls.
To be honest, I think a lot of it is James or me. In a sense, I guess we have the most experience and we are more accustomed to playing on stage, so we can be more decisive about our calls. I think that's the biggest issue we have. We just need to be decisive, stick to one call, and try to all follow it through.
Okay, well, on that note, DeJong, we'll let you go. Get ready for this draft, and we'll see you in the Rift.
All right, thank you. See you guys.
Bye.
Sounds like he's probably going the pathway. Like, there's a couple of options with the way you would expect them to play today, right? Given that they're clear underdogs.
Yeah.
Option 3, which was my most non-preferred option is the cheese pathway, but perhaps that's where they choose to go.
I was thinking that as well. I thought if you try and match them with meta, I think it's asking for trouble. That's why I was quite excited and intrigued when he did mention, instability, because, typically speaking this season, what we've seen from Mammoth games have been very bloodthirsty. It's a kill a minute or more.
Nocturne Fiddle. Is this the Fiddle meta? Is this the where Fiddle came back in the jungle? Or is that 13.2? Because he started to like pop off, at least in my rank. That's awesome. He went right up the tier list.
Me and Skimmy were cooking. So Sion has been probably the most oppressive tank in that top side.
Yep.
Where something like the Vi paired with the Annie, I mean, that's just a lot of lockdown CC. And when it comes to these cheeses, I mean, if you have these champions for your first draft, I mean, this is looking really good for the side of Mammoth, but can they really get it? I mean, PGG is definitely coming in with something.
To be fair, yeah, Schoenfire, the most amount of success they've had is when he's on the Vi. So if Mammoth can somehow snake that away as one of the prio picks, that might be a good way to look at it, unless they decide to drop a ban on it. Either way, look, we've got a few stats to have a look at between these teams. Rusty, tell us, what do these numbers mean?
These numbers mean that Pentanet.gg are very good at the game, Mac.
Thank
they
you.
also mean that, unfortunately, Mammoth, as stats show, are not as good as by almost an identical amount in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Is like, again, goal difference of 15 is probably one of the biggest ones that you would look at for a lot of teams when these graphics do come up. And to be an average of 2,300 gold down just means they're not winning early games, right? They're just not being able to keep up in the early game. And it's so hard to play compositions out if you are just losing early games, which is usually a result of good jungle pathing or good ganks or, the initial Herald or Drake plays going well. Something that Pentanet are very good at.
Yep, and I'm just looking at the first blood percentage because that's the only thing that Mammoth has been able to match up against PGG, and that kind of leads back to the point where I think Mammoth, when it comes to the early laning phase, they are able to obtain those solo kills and they are able to outplay the enemy. But however, when it comes to the team fights, I mean, Dajong said that he and Voice does most of the shot calling, but it does seem like there's a bit of hesitancy when it does come to opting into winning fights, and that also bleeds a lot when it comes to the gold at 15.
Yeah, you're looking at the gold efficiency, right? And that's what it comes down to. There's been multiple times where Mammoth's been up in kills in games, but then you look at the gold difference at whatever time, it might only be 8 minutes in. And like say they're doing well against Chiefs early game or something like that, they'll be up like 10-5, and you're like, oh wow, they're winning when you look at the top of the scoreboard, but then you look slightly to the left, slightly to the right, you look at the gold difference, and Chiefs are still beating them by like 2,000 gold.
A lot of that usually comes from CS advantage. There's also plates, right? If you've had to invest a lot of members in the area to try and get their gank successfully off, you've just left somebody to their own device and they've just managed to sneak in 2 plates. So I think you tend to see that, the macro sense will favor these better teams.
Well, let's have a look at who's picking what side. Pretty sure PGG, coming in as a higher seed, they get to select and they've chosen blue. So there you go. Saving themselves the first pick. Looking like they might try to get Vi on the board real early. Do you think that's going to be prio?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes into our question that I was asking Rusty. So that does mean Mammoth is going to be on the red side for this first game. And who will they be saving that counter pick when it does come to the players on Mammoth? Because I think when it comes to top lane, Chi-Chi has a lot of champions in his back pocket. However, we've only seen one dimension of him where he's consistently on the weak side champions like Mordecai, Cassante. But when it comes to something like the Jace, I mean, that's a champion that could also realistically be flexed to the middle lane. So it really depends on how they want to utilize that last spot.
Okay, well, how do you want to utilize your Twitch points, Kitty? That's what I'm asking you. And you. And you. And you. Dare fan vote time. Get them in. Up there. Kitty's pointing at it. Press the button. Put them all on. Put them all on. We're not at playoffs.
It's so far off.
Just learning. Look, he's learning, you're learning. Dare fan vote time. Get him in, and we'll see what you guys think is going to happen this game. But you got to vote with your points, of course. And look, let's have a look at what we think is going to happen with the predictions. 2 zips on the front page. And look, you got your scores back. I'm not just winning anymore. 19-6.
I think me and Kitty were tied.
You and Kitty were tied.
This is just the throwback to last year where me and
was.
Skimmy were neck to neck for these predictions. I mean, the only time I believe the predictions were not even to the scoreline was when you went for dials because you were just Kiwi Power.
I was just going all in Kiwi Power.
Yeah.
That bit me pretty hard.
Yeah,
Hopefully not this time.
Look, there were points where they were doing pretty well, but it enabled the attempt at the comeback. Who ended up winning? Did I end up getting in front? Or you
Well,
won?
I think I won with some. I think I won with. Did I win? Did I tie with someone?
I ended up doing
I
well.
think-
You did really well, Mac. I remember you made a massive
Yeah.
comeback.
I'm pretty sure I won because I quite literally lifted up the trophy because I won.
Right.
But I'm having a brain fart.
That's
so.
because I just wasn't there.
Oh, it doesn't really matter, though, does it? Who
Right.
cares, really? Oh,
It's in
you
the
know,
past. In the
points
past.
on a screen,
It's in
mate.
the past. It's done.
By the way, all right, draft's not too far away. What do you think Mammoth are going to put prio on? Do you think that they will opt for the cheese sort of draft? Or
Well, that's
is
the
that just like
question, Mac.
a speculation?
The question is, how do they cheese, right? Because if you're going to say 5th pick for someone, it's probably got to be mid lane. It's probably got to be mid lane.
okay.
I think it'd be mid lane.
Well, look, you guys can find out right bloody now because Champ Select is ready for the first game of the series.
Well, let's do it. Day 2 of group stage, and this one being a double header, a chance to really see, you know, top of the table on either side of the group. PGG opening up their account here on the blue side with a double AD carry ban, with the response from Mammoth already being the Elise and the Annie.
We've been seeing a lot of Caitlyn Ashe as a shared ban on the blue side so far. Bliss, I believe it was, were doing that yesterday as well.
Yep.
So Maokai and Elise also going to be taken off. And the difference here between yesterday and today is that Annie and Gragas are going to be banned on red side by Mammoth as their 2-3 bans. This does leave open still pretty staple AD carry picks like the Varus. It does leave open Zeri responses still, to be sure. Vi is going to be available as a jungler, and usually on red side here you would go for like a jungler and an AD carry just to match them and make Pentanet reveal the rest of their 2-3 first.
This is why I find it fascinating that you've actually opted for the Varus over the Zeri, because if the Zeri does go that new build where you build full lifesteal, you kind of just laugh at all the Varus harass. So it's an interesting discussion, and maybe a case of them saying that Voice wouldn't really care if you play Zeri.
It's true, but also it's impactful early, right? Zeri doesn't have that lifesteal until she has the 2 items. So you still have clear windows where you are stronger. And this is an interesting adaptation from Mammoth as well. Because option number 1, when I was writing down how does Mammoth beat Pentanet, was hyper aggressive.
Yep.
And it's not just instability in champions chosen, it's instability in gameplay. You just send it. Just full send every single opportunity, make the plays, pick the Draven Nautilus composition now they've revealed themselves as Varus. Just go crazy on them.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because I would have been quietly frustrated if Mammoth had gone for a default scaling composition. I feel like you leave way too much to chance in that regard. So the fact that they are saying we either win or, you know, flounder by the first 15 minutes, that is pretty spicy. So we got a Renata, the first time in a hot minute. It's come back into the fold of things. Paired it with a Varus, and I would be really game on for an on-hit Varus for sure.
Yeah, and it actually, as a pick right now, Sion is just going to be locked in for Chi-Chi, something that Kitty was highlighting before. Pretty much best in slot if you're going to go 3 into Fiora Gwen bans, right? So Mammoth looking to do that one potentially. Chippy still has Camille, still has Olaf, still has options.
So there's a lot.
We'll see how they choose to focus in. Back to the Renata pick real quick. This option looks perfect into Mammoth's draft so far. If your first 2 picks are going to be divers without your carries, then Renata's denied both of them, right? You go in, Renata presses ult,
Hostile take.
you're hitting each other after you've engaged. You're locked in a
Absolutely.
Cataclysm, but you're attacking each other.
Yeah.
So it really throws a spanner into the works here for Mammoth's rest of their composition and how they're going to play that one out. So I'm very curious to see what their 4-5 will be.
An Ilaoi instead of the Gwen. Maybe a cheeky little pick that Chippies has been practicing. I can see the merit behind it, right? Obviously anything that shreds down the beefiness of a tank, but that's a little bit left field, isn't it?
I've seen Bio playing it in solo queue as well, I think it was. So maybe there is just some whispers of Ilaoi starting to creep up.
Yes.
So we get the Samira.
This is a classic for Voice. He hasn't played it in such a long time. And I remember in his interviews, he's even said, it just doesn't feel too good right now. Pair that with a Nautilus, and this is exciting.
Samira requires a Nautilus Leona type champion for sure. Also into the Varus, right? Just by default has that utility there. Can be super useful. We await the pick in response here by Pentanet. It is going to be the Darius. Listen, you lock in a blind Sion against Chippies, you know he's got champions. And the question was just which one. And he's chosen today. Today we're doing Ghost Flash Darius tech, and good luck.
And brother Dongy, he never played it in the top lane, even though I asked him all of last year, but he's going to play it as a mid laner. The Azir comes back out to play, and with the Sylas denied as well. The final pick, it was to be towards their mid laner in Dajong on your screen right now, and he goes for the Akali.
Akali. I will hold my reservations about this Akali pick because it feels like the Akali was picked for the matchup, not for the composition. You can deal with the Varus, yes, but you've also now just picked a melee assassin into a composition that was already designed to stop you from going in.
Yeah.
Wukong can cancel your R1 very easily, right? Can stop your dashes twice. Azir can push you away, and Renata exists. right? If you're in range of the Darius, he's probably still swinging his axes around. And
Chain of Corruption, obviously, as well, right? There's a lot of tools from Pentanet's side, as you highlight, to really handle them.
So I look at this Akali pick and I feel like it has to do well early. It has to be really strong from Dajang if it's going to have an impact in this game. Because if it's ahead, Varus does die, Azir does die, right? Like, there's still definitely targets to kill. Wukong doesn't build magic resistance. Usually it's health and damage. So there is a world that Dajang goes, 10-0 and just 1v9s the game out. Jarvan Ultimate has insane utility against the Varus, potentially the Azir. Azir's dash is based on not having an enemy between him and the Sand Soldiers, so you can lock down both carries here, and I think the comp from Mammoth can work.
Yeah.
It's just melee, diving, damage. That's it.
It feels, in my mind, very similar to the case when you stack too much armor or too much magic on a comp and you say, well, it reaches a point of the game where too much mitigation has been purchased. It feels kind of similar in this vein in the sense that you need to accrue such a lead that even if they do have those constraints to hold you back, you can just get in, get out, the damage has already been done.
Yeah, it definitely has to be like an Akano angle for them to find this, right? Because just like think about it, right? If we conceptualize Mammoth as just close range, team fighting, like brawly composition, their opponents all excel into that.
Yeah.
So something has to change early before they get to those items and get to play those team fights.
And it's exciting also to see the Jarvan back, right? With the prevalence of Elise being that case of, ganking as quickly as possible, not even free camp clear at the best of times, right? Jarvan certainly fits the bill from an AD standpoint in that regard too. So to see him come out, to see him showcase what he can do, should certainly be as volatile as Dajang mentioned in their interview.
Overall, though, very good damage mix as well from both of these teams, right? It does seem like single magic damage source of an assassin in mid lane still going to be perfectly fine. Their front to back is, on Pentanet's side, fairly solid with a Wukong and a Varus, right, to go in. And then obviously on the other side, a Jarvan and a Nautilus are just going to find those angles left, right, and center. Wildcard being the top lane is scheming to see how a Darius and a Sion will interact, because it feels like it's going to be pretty rough for old Sion up there.
Well, it certainly could be. Let's see what Chi-Chi can do to try and handle this one, because he's been at the receiving end of a very low kill participation. He's tried a little bit of everything. Mordekaiser, GP, carries, and all. But on a Sion, a kill participation like that certainly fits the bill. It's PGG, the 3rd seed, up against Mammoth, the 6th seed, coming into this one tonight. A best of 3, a chance away from the break to showcase what they've studied, what they've been doing, and just how good they are, as we have a doubleheader on the cards tonight.
Exactly right. 2 weeks for both of these teams. Just like yesterday, Bliss came in, guns blazing, looked very strong. And it seemed like a day in the office for them to find that 2-0. Now we get to explore how both of these teams were able to utilize that time, and if it was used well. First and foremost, it does seem like we're going to be getting a red side start here from Schönfire. Interesting for Pensanet, perhaps trying to protect a late invade. Most bottom lanes at the moment don't leash, right? It is just going to be Raptors done. Dajang walks in, places a ward, spots him.
Yep, that is permanent vision that they'll be well aware of with a time and out to play around. As Akano's going to start towards the top end here with the red buff. As we saw Schönfire starting by those Raptors. What was interesting for me looking at this from a Jungle Canyon perspective, if you will, is that Akano has been on a receiving end of a first blood for the majority of their games, whereas it has been Schönfire delivering that first blood. So it feels like, certainly if we're looking for an area where it could all explode, keep our eyes as to where these junglers are.
Absolutely, and also pay attention to the state of bottom lane, because Violet has been one of the most prolific teamfight AD carries in the whole league. I believe he's 2nd in damage dealt or damage share in the whole league behind Kisei.
Yeah, I think highest damage percentage overall, close to 32% in the entire league, which is crazy. And his stats, his laning stats, 10, 15 minutes in, nobody's close with CS or gold.
The old Darius technology, look at him work. Very straightforward, very expected. Mentioned it in Champion Select, but just to clarify for everyone now that we're in game, when you see a Darius, it's a Ghost, right? It's probably going to be Ghost Flash, could be Ghost Ignite, but usually it'll just be a Ghost, and the goal is start W, they can't touch you. But we might have to hold that conversation as ships in the night have passed into the jungle. Schönfire has not found Akano, but Akano's about to find him.
He certainly is, starting up his blue buff, but waiting in the shadows, wondering, what do you do
Brings
now?
over the bot lane. This is dangerous.
Yeah, the comms will have been there that, hey,
Akano?
you need to come across. Akano is still waiting, but now both bot lanes are here. Akano's still undetected. Does he just walk in and smite?
Okay, Schönfire smites it. Akano is just an NPC in the bush. Just watched.
Curious case, isn't
Man's
it?
got the binoculars out, he's bird watching. Schönfire now spots him at the Wolves and says, I don't know where you've been, but
Why were you there?
I'll tell you what, Skimmy, I am a little bit confused.
You're telling me Dajon can't help him.
He didn't even smite the blue.
He doesn't even contest the blue. He's going to lose this camp of Wolves as well. And the Jarvan that you want to see get that first gank off is really forced to return to base.
Yeah, and also just while we're looking at mid, Azir does have pushed pretty successfully into most matchups, so he's able to push in mid. Does mean that Dajon is going to lose health if he wants to match the push and match the last hitting. So does mean Azir would get there faster if a fight were to break out, but the positioning of that fight and Trust and Voice were just there, and it seems like they really weren't interested in partaking whatsoever. It means that Appy and Violet just got to walk over and protect, and I think that just really confused Akano into hurting himself in confusion.
Certainly felt that way, but he's returned back to the action and just walked up in the lane. Now it's all on Entrust to land this hook. It's a flash, it's a hook, it's a Glacial Augment with a shove to the side there by the Renata. And an Ignite that is being committed and a flashed in Jarvan. It doesn't really achieve much. Violet's held everything.
Yeah, and Trust was not really looking for the engage angle, and Akano lane ganks. Very messy, it feels like. I get that they're trying to make the play happen, but it never felt like Entrust was in on the play. And so Akano just tries his best. They'll use an Ignite. They won't really get the kills, but they will force the flash off Appy. Dongi now needs to respect, of course. Knowing that the Jarvan was bot side, you can see how heavily he's hovering towards the top side of the lane. Making sure that Jarvan can't touch him. And a flashless Jarvan ultimately means the summoners were traded positively for Pentanet through that trade, but also means that Dongi's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Nowhere near as intimidating as it would have been otherwise. And I can't but help feel like Akano is now relegated to chain ganking to claw his way back into this game. He goes for the Flag and Dragon, does successfully knock him up. There is the Shuriken flip, looking for it. Can they get the kill? They cannot. Forcing out the flash and the dash right after.
Yeah, nice little, I mean, Akano is not jungling. Let's just get that out there very quickly. If we look at the CS differential between
It's
junglers,
huge.
Akano is not jungling. He's not even taking smite fights with Schönfire. He is simply walking between lanes. He's going to help clear out mid, which is the right play. Dajon is level 6 and has that teleport, so he can come back to lane at his leisure. And they'll get the flash from support and mid of Pentanet. That's the real talking point here. Also, Chi-Chi's done all right so far. His wave's terrible right now, but he's done all right so far. About a wave of CS down against the Darius, who can be a nightmare to deal with level 1. Usually you'd lose a whole wave worth of minions in that first couple of waves.
Yes, certainly after that tax you highlight, right, with the double combat summoners, very much a similar case to be made as a Vladimir as well, right, as we saw last night. And Trust going to start off the action once again, stand aside, push them to the side, certainly is the case, but Schönfire jumps back in, level 5, so no Cyclone just yet, but Dongi does have that luxury, he does have the ultimate, and there is the divide! It's Split Voice across the wall, who's flashed the safety, and a blast cone back to his tower as he witnesses a double kill.
And Azir gets the push just from reset timings, gets the movement down the river, is immediately there to the play, and suddenly Pentanet, they'll get the skirmish that they're after. And it was something that was being considered by Mammoth as well, right? They had their Jarvan in the area, they were looking. But they can't realistically look at them when they're staring down a Wukong that is this large. Just a bit of health going to be traded back in mid as some kind of small transaction. End result still, Pentanet well and truly happy with that. Look at the gold difference Skinny as well. It's upwards of 2,000. Hook kicks this one off. They will then see the Wukong, realize it's not great, and they're just going to try and disengage. But look how fast he is here. There is no disengage. A flash has to be used just to get out of the Emperor's Divider. It's 3 kills, and that would have been devastating. But very simple, elementary stuff here by PGG.
That it certainly was, and it feels like the recipe for success, the engine, the catalyst of PGG has been, if Schönfire gets ahead, he is the conductor of the rest of their team, rallying around and feeling a sense of ease, a sense of comfort, knowing that they can play ever so aggressive because their mid-jungle or any kind of pairing is just that much further ahead. The story doesn't really get much better than for Akano, who is already significantly behind. That compounds even further now after that double kill. And will be praying, I'm sure, to go for a smite contest in the major objective.
Chippy's perhaps just missing line of sight there of the Jarvan. He's going for a wander through the jungle though to see what he can find. Perhaps was considering a ward at the Krug camp but doesn't have one to place. Will instead find himself a Scuttle Crab. Chi-Chi's now going to find Chippies and that Scuttle Crab and has reinforcements backing him up. 5 members.
They're all on him. Right now, it's a case of how much longer can Chippy survive for, because he's bought time, he's gotten in the backup, there is the Cyclone, there is the knock-up onto a 5-man bouncy castle, and Dongy's just waiting in the wings, wondering when is my time to strike as Chippy's flashing away, but Dajong is perfect with his execution. It will be a 1-for-1 so far, and there is a Herald on the retreat.
I mean, yeah, Dajong plays it well, but it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. Nautilus, I'm pretty sure, just hooked the ulting Wukong clone into his team and caused a 5-man knock-up, which is not exactly the play that you're looking for. Bensonet will just take the 1-for-1 now. Look, 3-0 scoreline on Shurnfire. You take those, but they are looking at the objectives still. They might be able to get themselves a Rift Herald, especially with the Wukong showing on top wave, catching a monster wave that was there. Watch this one more time, Skimmy. There's not going to be too much to talk about here. Chippies will simply wait for his Q cooldown, get into the bush, try and find some Fog of War. Shurnfire comes in, says, I'm out. And Trust says, no, you're not. Make sure that the ult hits everyone. And then they split, right? Voice goes for this play while the rest of his team is chasing the Darius. That's not a team communicating, unfortunately.
It's a little bit of a Samira syndrome, you know? You get the S ranking, you feel powerful, you pop the trigger. But at this stage, nowhere near enough damage to lifesteal and survive through what was a very strong PGG in response. So, 10 minutes in, and it's a 3-0 Wukong, and it's Shurnfire with a Mythic item already complete.
Yeah, 10-minute Mythic item. Magical footwear as well, sitting pretty. Does mean things are going very well for Bensonet.gg. Chippy's, of course, able to tank a full Scion Q because he presses Q himself and will heal through that one. And permanent push is basically what you'll see from the Darius. Chi-Chi can clear waves really well, but Darius has too much pressure. And so he'll be stuck under turret as Entrust.
He's gone for a cheeky roam here into the tri-bush, but then the hostile takeover comes across and says that Akano, you will not be backing him up. You can flag and drag, but that's about it. And Voice, once again, is just a mere spectator to it all.
Just not being able to track where Shurnfire is, right? Appy walks up, hits the hook, and Trust playing like he had summoner spells, right? He could be safe. If it's a 2v2, he should be perfectly fine. And he had the hover of Akano nearby, but if two junglers are meeting and a fight's going to happen, you're afraid of the mythic completed Wukong, to be certain. So they get punished for that one once again. CS difference really out of control as well through that bottom lane. You think about all the fights and skirmishes that have happened down there. And while there's been only the one kill onto Voice, Violet's just been quietly farming throughout all of this, right? Pushing the waves before the plays, you know, setting up before the plays happen is all the difference, and it adds up very quickly over time.
He certainly is a 10 CS per minute kind of player. That has been a statistic rather that he's been playing towards rather well, all split long. And it is no different. It's really in their entry to the group stages here as well. Kano going to revisit one more time. And he does have the ultimate, and he will have the flash up, and he has a Herald in the pocket. That's the biggest takeaway here, but Shurnfire's read it. He knows exactly what to expect.
Exactly right. The wave's large. It needs to be protected as it crashes in. Shurnfire going to make sure that that does happen. They've got the Drake up in 10 seconds as well, so plays through lane, protects his bottom lane 2v2, doesn't let any cheese happen. He's now just sitting just outside of the line of sight of Mammoth. I think, in fact, even shows himself there for a brief moment. Has no reason to be afraid of anyone or anything. And it's quite simply push the wave, go for the objective. Let's see what Mammoth do if they respond at all. Because Akano, aka Akano CS, is still bottom.
Yeah, he's going to realize that it is gone now, but spending such a long amount of time here waiting for something to happen.
This is basically win or lose play. That's how hard they're forcing it.
Yeah, we've seen this happen before.
They just recall it.
I'm getting flashbacks to that regular season game where you lost your mind saying, are we going in, are we not? What's happening? I cannot. We are zooming in, wondering.
He's staying. He's got Herald to summon, so he knows that they've gone back to base. This time does mean they'll get some turret plates. It's going to stick around. Remember, reduced Herald damage on charge doesn't mean it's guaranteed 2 plates, so you want to get some autos off with it. Reinforcements from Bensonet are going to return now. And I mean, if they can push this wave in, get a good reset off, then they should be perfectly fine. especially with Shenfire on the opposite side of the map.
Quietly achieving, though, has to be said, is Dajung's Akali. Managed to find that first kill onto Chippies despite him flashing away, and he's obviously keeping Dongi interested in this laning phase. Farming at a very comparable rate. Just waiting for that rocket belt to come online. And look to try and find a squishy target once another fight breaks out.
We'll see how pressured Dongi feels, but ultimately they're still trading health evenly, and this was at a point where Dajung was already at half HP, so he's going to have to go back to base. No teleport there for either mid laner. Game not necessarily at a stalemate by any means, but more of a standoff, and the reason that it is a bit more of a standoff is because at all points when nothing's happening, Pensinet are in the lead. They're just going to whittle you down piece by piece. Maybe a plate falls, maybe an extra Varus Q hits, maybe an Azir Q just incidentally hits you while pushing a wave at the same time, and that next objective's easier to take. Hook attempt bottom, no dice. But to no one's surprise, Akano's still here.
Yeah, it's approaching Flame Horizon territory in the jungle of all things right now. The gamble of an early game jungler like the Jarvan certainly hasn't paid off as they would have really hoped for. Certainly is put in a position where it is all about chain ganking until it does land.
And ganking bottom, at this point, if Shenfire is there, you know it's losing. You're dealing with a Ghost Blade completed for Violet versus, you know, the Variety Bucket items on the way to a Mythic for Voice. So you're never really winning the 2v2. He's really just hovering so that they don't lose harder, it feels like. But that means he's not playing the game. He may as well be Ivan.
At this rate, there's mental support by being in the area, and then there's support by actually getting it done. Two-man depth charge, Blade well disengaged, and Trust is just sniped from afar. You've entertained the idea of trying to fight a third Varus with that item Spike, and then Shenfire says, we can do you one better. Flash in with a two-man Cyclone just out of range of the turret. And it won't matter if you do get that luxury with the buff. The bounty is transferred.
400 extra gold. 700 gold value. Shenfire has been given over to Akano. That helps out the Jarvan. He's able to complete a Mythic, so get some money for it. But they'll lose the whole turret. We'll watch this again. A hook hits. They know Shenfire is here. He's shown himself bottom. They make this play consciously saying we're going to go for it. That means that they have consciously said we can take on the 3v3, which is wrong. And they've obviously learned that the hard way. Shenfire comes back in, hits the R2, locks them down. Akano does hit a good combo. Prioritizes the correct target as well, but there was still an exhaust available from Appy. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get the W timing correct to keep him alive. The turret gets it done.
Well, perhaps now for Mammoth, it could just be bounty to bounty, having picked up the champion one onto Shenfire. Straight away for an objective bounty now, looking for their second Herald of this game. The whole squad is here, and Chippies will be lagging behind, much in part to the fact that he will not have a luxury of a teleport. It will just be a free acquisition for Mammoth to take away, unless Shenfire has something to say. To be the case, though. Forcing out his clone to try and disengage, still caught in the grasp of that hook. Shoved away is the Emperor survive. Baylor keeps him alive just a little bit longer, but not enough to survive that much more. A double kill for the Darius, who's now got a triple, so bleed stacks like you would not believe. But a beautiful trade for really what is a Herald.
Yeah, I mean, Shenfire walks up to the pit and says, we know you're there, and you can engage on me right now, but choosing to do so, even if I die, the reinforcements will be here by that time, and that's all it comes down to. They'll get another little skirmish, 3 kills into the pocket of Chippies. 4th ultimate used on the Scion clone just for good measure, and Voice has got the shield bow, also has a flash that he will use with no hesitation.
Yeah, wasn't taking any chances there. May have just been whittled down, the slow burn of the bleed.
And this is going to be probably the worst case scenario for Mammoth. We spoke about this during Champion Select, but close range composition into a Darius. Close range composition with Renata having an ultimate as well that can lock everyone down. Varus, free abilities. Azir gets the freest ultimate as well. Dongi goes really big in this team fight. Very simple stuff for Pensinet.gg. They've drafted a comp that deals with close range quite well.
Certainly have. Nice two-man handshake there, as Appy keeps them honest for the meantime, but it won't prevent Mammoth from summoning the Herald in the mid lane, searching out another bounty. Any form of gold to really get themselves back in this one as they stare down what is now a 7k deficit. And a position PGG are feeling very comfortable in. You can have those Heralds, but we're fighting for a soul point now.
This is one of those situations, though, where you're looking at Varus at home, and it is the Samira just throwing little pebble cues while Varus is taking half your HP. Objectives should be free. Team fights should just realistically be free. They're going to have to look for picks. Mammoth's composition right now is going to have to rely on Dajong, the 2-in-1 Akali. Try and generate some picks onto carries if possible. As stated as well, you know, resistances aren't exactly easily purchased. There's no dedicated tanks on the Pentanet side. Especially not magic resistance given Mammoth's overall composition. So maybe there is a world that we get some kind of crazy performance from Dajong, but even now it feels like grasping at straws trying to find a way into a game that is just steadily getting worse and worse.
Even harder given the fact that Appy's gone for the Locket as opposed to the Shurelius for his Renata, right? So any kind of shield to try and make you a little bit tankier. Dongi forced to burn the ult in the 1v1 playing towards the side lane, summoning his own turret and saying, well, we'll have that fight. You can die to the turret whilst I go golden. That's the stopwatch burn. But the pressure can be felt from the Akali.
And does survive, but it is just Dajong trying to do it by himself, right? Not going to be given any support. Turret, stopwatch, more than enough to keep Dongi alive. There was a world that Dajong does go for that. I'm actually surprised he didn't consider the E2 after stopwatch. Wants the safe pathway. Sometimes you got to be a hero, Skimmy, and maybe you die for it. I think that was one of those moments where he really needs to give his team something. They need to be thrown a bone. And maybe it's a mistake, but probably was one of the better mistakes you could make.
What a reluctance to make those kind of mistakes has certainly cost them in this game, hasn't it? PGG now finding their third turret in succession. That's all the out has gone now. And as spicy as the picks are for Mammoth, PGG certainly had some of their own.
Hover this time from Schernfire towards Dongi. If Dajong goes, there would be a Wukong nearby. Is just actually going to disappear. Moving towards the rest of his team, as right now they've got 4 members strong near mid lane. This is a point where it's a little bit harder to do things, to be fair, right? Probably going to be waiting for that Drake Soul and for the Baron buff to be a killable target. But general DPS with the Azir will be quite high, but the Varus being lethality does mean they're going to have a lot of people there if they want to actually convert this one. An early teleport in does scream Baron's being done. Chippy's kind of gives it away though with his positioning, and Blue Trinket confirms.
Begs the question though, what can Mammoth do to try and answer this one? They denied a blast cone, out go to Chena Corruptions. Oh, what an ultimate! The hostile takeover says, nope, not happening, not on our watch, that Baron is ours.
A captive audience essentially, as the Jarvan and the Nautilus will just attack each other and they'll watch the Baron as they smite it away. They're kind of going to flag and drag towards mid lane. Maybe catch Violet as he's being extremely cheeky and wants to get a wave while the rest of his team was resetting. But he's okay.
He must have a lot of gold in his pocket right now, waiting for that next major spark, not too far away from the Manamune evolution.
Red buff applied.
In goes Schernfire, it's a flash engage, a 2-man knock up. He knows the backup's there, but it's a retreating Jarvan, it's a hook to safety, but it's no safety to be found. In goes Dong, he scoops them right back, it says it's easy.
Chippy's angry.
And Voice, he's in trouble. Dragged right back in.
Chippy's not angry enough, but still angry.
Give it a lifeline.
He's been given another chance at life. But 9 times out of 10, the Darius goes for that one. Meanwhile, pushing mid lane, they'll still get the kills that they're after, and I feel like, let's be honest here, if you're Mammoth, you're thinking about game 2. You are not thinking about how you win this game anymore. You're just going through the motions, playing this one out, thinking about what you can fix for the next game. Because it is all Pentanet.gg.
That most certainly is. It's crested over the 10k mark now for PGG. Dajong showing so much patience, but will his team die before he can even wrap around for that flanking angle? Now jumping in with a rocket belt to start things off. In with the dash, looking for the ult follow-up, but gets exhausted, can't do much after that. Shuriken flip back out. Not to disengage away whilst the rest of his team crumbles around him unless Voices a moment shine. He's found one so far with the ult. The trigger certainly was pulled, but he's out of the fight now. Look how low his health bar is. But down 10k, it's commendable.
I mean, yeah, they were down far enough that they were so close to winning that fight in an even game. That was probably a win. But Pentanet are definitely not playing the smartest league because they don't need to, right? They are just breaking down the front door. There will be casualties, but they're able to get the inhibitor that they were after. They'll get themselves back to base with a sizable advantage. Close moment there for Mammoth, 100%. They were given a small chance at freedom. I'll watch this one more time because Dajong, once he goes in, he finds his angle after the Nautilus hook. Sion Q unfortunately wasn't a knock-up, but Dajong just gets exhausted. The second he goes in, exhausted, lockdown, can't do any damage, has to disengage, and gets killed basically while in his shroud. And so the fight is over. Voice, heroic moment, is able to get the reset off with his dash, but just doesn't have the damage. Doesn't have the items, doesn't have the crit. And Chippies does have the damage and the movement speed. He threw him a bone last time, said, you can live this time, but I'm going to hunt you down, and he found it.
He certainly did. Moments like that, though, for a Samira certainly are what you live for. Another reset like that, and you are just reset city. And certainly a very happy place to be. Not happening, though, as Pentanet will solidify their strategy in this game, which is picking up that Dragon very early on. A sole point taken 24 minutes in now. Cloud at just that. The mobility to run the clock down in a sub 30-minute game.
Inhibitor sure to follow here as well. Samira going for the Bloodthirster build, so one of the concepts, right, is that Varus wants to harass you with his lethality and poke, you go double lifesteal and you'll be fine. They are just going to send it down mid. It is going to miss.
Well, it's a desperation. It does really feel like the last chance here. The entire team is hitting one another. A little bit of friendly fire, but that won't bother Pentanet because Violet has found 3 members so far. Can he find himself that cheeky Penta? It's eluded us all split long. It's been such a long time since we've seen that magical pentakill. But it may just fizzle and settle at 3 as Pentanet will turn their sights right back towards the Nexus. Locked inside your fountain. 1 tower goes down, the second sure to follow, and 25 minutes on the dot. It's a Nexus that will explode and a Pentanet will be beaming with happiness. Note that this game from start to finish was always theirs.
9-1 and 9 scoreline as the game finally finishes for Violet, the man on your screen. A fantastic performance. Had shown fire in the pocket, and they were just able to hit some really good skirmishes. And this is a case of, like, you could almost see this happening right before the game was even played out. Mammoth go for skirmishes, Pentanet, an early game team that we've seen here in the LCO. Well, they just match you and best you in that early game, and suddenly the game just can't be brought back.
Certainly cannot. And yeah, Pentanet having been renowned for their very strong early game. I like the approach from the side of Mammoth to try and match them with that. The fact it didn't go their way, though, especially in the jungle department, which was my major concern, certainly means that this turnaround between games 1 and 2 is very important.
PG just got too big. They were just way too big. You could see at the end, you know, Kitty and I were watching that final attempt at the fight, you know, and then, you know, you said some timings might have not been there, but even if it was, they were just so small at that point. They were the goal diff just too big and PGG just too large.
Yeah, the item difference was just way too big when it came to the later game team fights. And with something like the Samir and the Nautilus, I mean, you need to generate that lead earlier in the game. But unfortunately, we saw PGG just opting into extremely good skirmishes where Dongi was able to rotate first. And due to the numbers disadvantage, well, it just fell really flat for Mammoth. And with something like the Samir and Nakala, you need to have those online items online to do some damage in these team fights. But like I've been saying, I think Mammoth should really get creative with it. They need to do something really cheesy. Like, we already see the sound coming in for this game where maybe we could have perhaps seen something camping the bottom lane in level 1. You just sit in the bush, get a double stun, burn the flashes out, and play the game. You know, not like the usual, but yeah, a lot of successful dives from PG as well, where this specific team fight, it was looking good for the side of Mammoth, but remember, you used all your spells onto on the Wukong, where everyone else was just free DPSing. I mean, even Chippies, he was 0-1 and 0 when it came to the early game, but these team fights, he was just having such a laugh when you look at those face cameras as well. I mean, it was just a really good game from PG, and I'm sure that they will be, you know, continuing this morale going to the game too.
Yeah, the big thing for me as well, Kitty, was just during the draft phase when you see an immediate Java Nautilus locked in, you know what the identity of the comp's going to be, right? They've scripted it early with their first 2 picks, and then Appy just says Renata checkmate. You know, like you can't actually make those engages. It's so much more difficult.
Especially when you're locking in the Jarvan second. I mean, Mammoth is the only team that has this urgency on the Jarvan pick, and looking at the damage charts, we've mentioned this before, I believe Akano had a really worrying damage share compared to the rest of this team, where he was actually a little bit below Entrust because he has played something like the Ashe before, where I think just maybe drop the Jarvan. I know it's your comfort, but it's most definitely not working.
And PGG's damage graph just looking like a cell phone signal at this point, isn't it? It's just really
My
scaling.
4G.
They got bars.
They got hit by
bars.
5G technology down under.
PGG got them bars.
He got those bars. Insane. Love that out of you, Skivvy. Hey? That's a cracker. It's probably your best yet, honestly. Now, look, moving forward, what do we want to see change from Mammoth going into Game 2? We were talking to them, saying that they're learning about, how to make these adaptations, how to do the draft. Now, what would you suggest if you were in their shoes, Kitty?
What would I suggest? Drop the Jarvan and replace it with something like the Sejuani. I mean, everyone's playing it for a reason. You can't just ignore the fact. But sorry, I just saw something on the item graphs that really caught my attention, which was the Samira's build. So Voice decided to opt into the Immortal Shield Bow with BT's second coming in. And we've been talking about this on the desk, where this build is getting really popular because of the overheal buff from the rune pages and just the amount of shielding power that you have in these team fights. It's pretty much having a second health bar, but unfortunately, you have the health bar, but do you have the damage? We're not too sure.
Okay, so what did Sedge have that countered it? Just Grievous or something?
No, there was no Sejuani in that
they
game,
just
but I
had-
wanted to see
sorry.
a Sejuani. I wanted to also talk about the Samira build, but yeah, it's getting a little bit confusing. Mammoth, I believe in you guys. Get that early game ahead. We've been talking about this for like the past 3 weeks. Do something that is unexpected. I mean, Dajong was even talking about it. He opted into the Akali matchup, but what's so special
Blind
about that?
Scion was pretty unexpected. I
Whoa,
didn't see it
Blind
coming.
Scion and 13.3. No way.
Wow.
The mix-up.
That's his big boy. So, what about top lane? Did we expect Chippies to be as big as he was? Darius he was real fast. I was looking up. I was just like, this man, he's sprinting. This isn't League of Legends. This is bloody 100-meter dash.
I mean, it's a good example of Chippies as a player, right? He's been around for long enough that he can play pretty much every single top lane champion. And if you are going to blind a tank into Chippies, he was always the carry player. Always. Like back in 2017 when he was playing top lane, you go for the Scion, he's going to pick the Camille. And he's going to split push your face off. So he's very comfortable in these situations. And so blind Scion, while it's really good right now, Chippies may be the one person who has an answer in every situation.
Oh, isn't that good? Huh? I'm sure he's going to have a great life because of that. But look, you guys probably having a great life at home. That was a quick one, which means we got plenty of time to see what your perma-bans are from the fans, of course. Hashtag LCO if you want to get those submissions in. Of course, we got a Melg, Muay Thai, Carbon, Sin.
Yeah.
That's hot. That's hot.
Did you see his recent video?
I was going to say, did you see that video of him?
It's dangerous.
What was the caption? If somebody says, is it Palmer?
Yeah,
It was
preparing
one of
for
the
DreamHack
variations.
if they say
You
Palmy.
said the wrong one.
And yeah, everyone, there's this trend, right? Even on like the DreamHack socials, they keep spelling Palmy with an I, and I'm getting ridiculously
It's a
triggered
Y.
by it because it's a Y.
Yeah, it is. It's
And
a
everyone,
Y.
and it's like, you are obviously a Palmer sayer because you don't even know how to spell the bloody word right. It's not Palm I. Anyway, look, conversation for another time. We've got a few more from the fans to get through. Peronius, Viral, Jax, Nocturne, Zed, Caitlyn, and Morgana. And on that note as well, I guess I'm fighting Carbon at DreamHack. Maybe all of us. Are we all Palmy sayers?
I'm Palmy.
Palmy?
What's New Zealand
I'm
say?
indifferent. I don't really care.
Kitty
I don't
doesn't
say
even,
the word.
Kitty doesn't.
I just
Kitty
eat it.
can't. Kitty cannot legally say the word.
Just give.
Just give food.
Right.
I
And it
don't care how
please
you say
give-
In
it.
the end, it doesn't really matter because Schnitties are better than Palmies. So
Okay, that's
going.
incorrect.
Nah, it's not. But look, I didn't even read. Sorry. Yeah, Peronius, thanks for
Yo,
that.
Giga Chat none.
My brain's in a different place now. Rise Unlisted says none. He just
Wait,
AFK's
Just
permanent.
AFK's draft, okay.
AFK's banned.
Based.
Yep. That's the
That's
base.
some, that's some Giga Chat
That's
energy.
some ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still just ban Yumi.
I
Imagine
can beat
banning
everything.
nothing in
Or
2023.
Right.
arguably, it's weak bladder energy because, you're just not there.
Right. He's always in the bathroom.
Or alt-tabbed.
You miss your bands.
You
That
never know.
too. Well,
Could just
you-
be watching
Can you
streams.
alt-tab
You
from the
can't-
League client?
Oh, you just minimize it.
Mac, talking about weak bladders, you know how Rides changed the early game about being AFK in the first 1 minute and 30 seconds, the game gets completely remade
been
and
done
you
by that.
get a LP reduction that's thrown onto your head for the next 3 games. So no toilet breaks during Champ Select, no wrong runes, no wrong summoner spells, and definitely no remakes. Come on, guys.
No remakes, indeed. And we got a second game to get to, so unfortunately it's time to say goodbye. For the moment, we got a break to get through, and Game 2's coming up just after.
To be the case, though. Forcing out his clone to try and disengage. Still caught in the grasp of that hook. Shoved
big
away
ult.
is the Emperor survive. Baylock keeps him alive just a little bit longer, but not enough to survive that much more. A double kill for the Darius, who's now got a triple, so bleed stacks like you would not believe. But a beautiful trade.
Welcome back to the LCO. We got a second game to jump on into. We got two teams. One is PGG, the other is Mammoth. One team did really well in that first game. The other team didn't do as well as the team that won. But look, they still gave it their best, and hopefully in game two, they're going to do just as well. Kitty, what about you?
Bars.
Well, there's a lot of speechlessness, isn't there, in this
Oh my
broadcast
god,
lately?
the tension in this room right now.
Oh, we got the close-up match.
Shh.
You can't move now. Yes.
Got a deep burn in
Yes.
my thigh.
That definitely didn't look comfortable.
Yeah, my toes are a little sore too. Either way, just getting squat day in. You know, one long paused squat, that's all we need. But look, fun games here in the Leagosphere. Got to see some Darius.
I'm sorry,
For what?
because Mammoth's gameplay got me speechless.
Oh my.
In which way? Either way,
Oh
look,
my
let's have a look at the draft
Too many bits
quickly
at once.
again before we
Yeah,
jump
too
on
many bits
into...
running.
We're just chilling over here.
yeah, this is the content
This is
couch.
soap opera.
That's the casting couch. Casting couch. Content couch. Look,
Ooh.
and that's why we're separated. Either way,
Need to
have a
change
quick
the colour
look
of the
here.
couch then.
Kitty, you obviously weren't there for Champ Select. Anything you want to say in particular about the bands, about the picks here?
Yep, I mean, Mammoth did lock in a pretty straightforward team composition. It is all about those team fighting abilities and getting those flanks onto the carries. I mean, you do lock in the Jarvan into something like the Varus and Renata, but I think this Renata took Mammoth by surprise. It was pretty much the perfect answer into a team composition that goes all in, but if Voice was able to play it smartly and save that wall specifically for the Renata ultimate, it could have been winnable. Unfortunately, we never saw those instances where you are putting so much resource into just killing a Wukong in some of those team fights. You're forgetting that, you know, PGG locked in more than just one carry, and Darius, Varus, Azir, I mean, we saw Dongy's Azir finally for the, what, third time, maybe?
In ever.
Ever.
Like, where has it been, Doggy?
I feel like,
Yeah.
wait, we only
It's
seen
right
Dongy
there.
on like the tanky top lane picks, right?
Well, he
Like,
played Azir
essentially.
top, and then like he did a whole bunch of wacky things, and I would always ask, like, when is it coming back, right?
Wait,
But,
he hasn't played it since OCS.
No, he played it top once.
oh, he's played it in LCS.
Well,
Well, you
Yeah.
guys
Lane.
talk about that quickly. We got
Yeah.
side
Oh,
selects.
true. Yeah, true. Yeah,
Throw
yeah.
her up. Mammoth picking red side. So
So my point to follow up what Kitty mentioned before, I
Okay.
want them to double down what Mammoth did. I want them to double down on this early game aggression. That has to be your approach to this, because I don't think you can survive post 15 minutes, especially if Schoenfire does what he did before.
who's getting the counter pick?
I think it should be mid lane again, but I think you sort of drafted yourself into a hole like Rusty mentioned. Like, yeah, the Akali looks good in isolation, but as the team fight, it was a bit of a rough affair. I think if that was a control mage, maybe like a Syndra or Orianna, something a little bit different, something to give them a little bit of a
The
window back
Zoe.
in. Yeah, of course, always the Zoe, right? But like,
Actually, yeah.
some way to have range. Otherwise, it put too much of the onus on the rest of the team all jumping in at once and just praying that a miracle would occur.
Well, I pray for your Twitch points because 91% of you got a little boost, 9% of you lost it all. Unfortunate, but you got a second opportunity. Twitch point, their vote, their fan vote time rather. Up there, Kitty, please. As you, oh, yes! That's why she's the best. That's why she's the greatest. Look, get him in.
Business, Kimmy would say.
Let us
She's
know
best.
if it's going to be the same. Let us know if you think it's going to be another 25-minute affair or not.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
best in slot! I don't know why I did that.
You get so pumped
I'm
about
so
this
cringe.
word.
I'm so cringe. I'm sorry.
It happens, man. It happens.
I got too excited. Never get too excited.
Do you do it for Tally? Is that why you're doing it?
Yeah.
you know what's the worst thing?
Yeah, he misses
You
Tally.
think
a
I
Yes.
lot.
miss Tally so much.
Makes me say Biss all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a MMO player. I'm a MOBA player, sorry.
Yeah.
Arguably,
The infection.
you know, best in slot can be. It's just been a. It can.
It's transferable. It's transferable.
It goes between games. All right,
Mac
that's where
is
I'm going.
Biss host.
True and real.
Ooh. Hey, that could start some controversy. Fortunately, you know, the people who would start that controversy probably aren't watching. They're probably sleeping in other countries. Either way, what do we want to see coming out of PGG? Do you think they're going to go just as team fight centric, or do you think they're going to go for something a little bit different?
I don't think they need to change a thing, right? And if you were Pensinet, you wouldn't change a thing because you have to play a lot of good teams if you win this next one.
Okay, well, let's see if they change a thing, two things, three things, or nothing, because Champ Select's ready.
Thanks a little bit clean with it since the break, haven't I? Tell you what, he's definitely had a few dares in his lifetime. Here we go, though. PGG back on blue side.
Bye-bye.
The Vi has been locked in. So no changes there, nor the bans apart from the Varus.
Yeah, Ash, Caitlyn, Varus actually going to be taken off the board, which is why the first pick has, of course, changed. It does mean that Mammoth will be able to see the Vi and respond. This is a staple jungle pick, something that Kitty was talking about before as well, right? So the Sejuani can be slammed. This opens up a wealth of options for melee characters to be played in solo lanes.
Yes.
But also, even at this point, you probably would still go for an AD carry if there's a high priority champion above the rest that is up and available. We've been saying Zeri, but it doesn't seem like that's the path that Mammoth are going to take.
Ooh, very interesting.
Looking at Isaiah Rakan, I suppose.
Yeah, so the Rakan has been buffed, and Trust has played this before, but this does suggest to me that you really want to play defensively. Zeri will not be passed over 2 games in a row, as Violet will lock that one in and showcase just how strong it can be, as a Zillion is now being hovered, and I wouldn't mind this being locked in. If this were to be the case, I would feel like we're going back to the old days of Peace Violet, but it's not to be. It is the Lulu. Zeri Lulu, I mean, doesn't really get much better than that.
No, it's the way to go. You see a Zeri, you're most likely going to get a Lulu. Zillion can actually work.
But I was thinking maybe a
obviously,
Dongy
yeah.
Zillion mid, right?
Well, I mean, you could probably also just play Zillion into, with a Zeri, but that has a lot of, context on who your opponents are going to be in that bot lane matchup. I feel like Azaya and Rakan are going to hard engage constantly.
Yeah, sure.
It'll be a little bit harder to perhaps get through that laning phase. Either way, it's going to be the Lulu. Dajong, signature pick. Does mean that they're not going to reveal their AD carry, and it's not going to be a melee mid laner. It's not the Yone, it's not the Gragas that you're now seeing banned away. So this Sejuani just picked for its strength, not for the way that it's going to combo at the present moment, unless Chi-Chi's got something up his sleeve.
Well, that's where you now look towards, right? If the counter pick was used for Dajong game 1, then it has to certainly be used for Chi-Chi this time around. Maybe off the tank duty and into the likes of your Jax, your Fioras, your Camille's, for instance. Any kind of way to be that absolute menace with that top jungle pairing. The Gragas removed first of all. What else are they concerned about? They are concerned about the Olaf, which certainly had stung them in the past, in their previous meeting between. And Azaya, as already highlighted, right, with that Rakan already guaranteed.
I mean, Xayah, one of those picks that with the changes to Navori Quickblades has become a potential option, right? So being able to have the permanent uptime on your W would be cool. You can see Violet going for a bit of a yell of excitement there when he saw a Jinx hover. Rakan Jinx, not the most notorious duo. And the Rakan choice, I mean, yeah, Rakan actually has risen in popularity, risen in priority a little bit since those buffs, for sure. A lot more healing down in bottom lane as well is something that's very nice for lane sustain. But going for this Rakan Jinx, not seeing what Chi-Chi has picked yet, it's hard to say exactly how they're going to play their comp out. You would expect it goes towards the Jinx lane.
You would certainly hope so. It's been a very long time since we did see that Jinx. It certainly has been a long time since the meta was just Jinx Aphelios on repeat. No doubt Zero will be looking to try and showcase that, hey, I am just the better team fight champion when it comes to 1v9ing. But regardless, Pentanet going to round out their composition with very quick insta-locks. Make it a Galio and pair that with a Renekton.
Just bruises, man. Galio mid, knows the Zoe matchup is there, can rush the Merc treads as well, right? And can have that magic shield that comes up by putting a level into the W. And the Renekton locked in is going to be a blind top lane champion. It has got the Vi to at least assist and the Galio to at least assist as well when it comes to surviving whatever lane that will be. Could have been a Scion from Chippies, right? Like, could have been a tank, which is, I would say, the standard at the moment. But
yeah,
O's love their Renekton.
They certainly do. And if you're already so far ahead with these early games, why not double down and
God,
say
he's got Aatrox.
We're playing Renekton. Aatrox has, in fact, been locked in, which seems a little bit dicey into Azeri, especially.
That is exactly right. So one of the places that Aatrox is a really good pick, and this is from conversations I've been having with some top laners in the LCO as well, is when they have a Varus or an Ashe or a champion that by kit doesn't have that mobility, Aatrox is so incredibly good because you have kill threat at all times, right? You're able to hit a Q1, Q2 dash, and then suddenly you've just got lethal as a top laner solo. Zeri with a Lulu means that if you are in a team fight, polymorphed, dashed away from, and you're just kind of sitting there feeling a little bit useless.
A little bit how you going.
Yeah, there's a lot of how you're going.
Especially if it is the Navori Quickblade build on top of that from the Zeri, right? So it's just permanent uptime on the dash.
3 attacks, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly
so
right.
it's an odd one, right? That you saved it for that. If you're just, once again, maybe in the conundrum that I need to try and handle this matchup of the Renekton, but who else then becomes your priority that you want to lock in place with those Infernal Chains?
I mean, yeah, what kind of a counter pick is this if it's going to just be an Aatrox picks last? I mean, Renekton's one of those champs that should just be able to survive the lane as well, right? You send a Sejuani up there to gank, it's got 2 dashes and a flash to get to safety if it comes to it. Overall compositions, of course, though, are on your screen. The big talking points for me for Mammoth's comp is Jinx scaling for voice and Dajong on a signature pick with this Zoe. Are the 2 places to look at. They are the stars of the show for this team, so definitely the place that you need to look at it. Akano picking a tank this time around, so if he is going to just spend time on perm or hovering lanes, better off being a tank for it, because you have a lot of utility.
You most certainly do. Well, let's see if it changes the tune here, loading into the second game. Pentanet already on a match point, and looking to close it out
GG.
here in the second. Ward denied.
GG 1-1. Ward cleared, of course, does mean that they're just going to have a little bit less control of the lane bush in level 1, but the bottom laners getting a ward at level 1 isn't going to give them 2 off the first wave or anything. It's not going to be a game-changing level of impact.
I remember when we got excited about it happening in the mid lane, right? You'd say, oh, that means they're going to hit level 2 just a fraction earlier.
Well, it's 2 on the first wave. It's so valuable. Something that we've actually seen again this split once or twice. You know, mid lane is just starting with sweeper. And because there is the meta of walking bottom as a 2v2, placing a ward and then disappearing, you just mid laner take sweeper, walk down there with your bot lane, clear a ward, GG mid, right?
It's just GG first minute. But no, I'm very interested to see really what Mammoth can do here. The priority for a signature pick like the Zoe that we always get excited for. This will be Dajong's 10th game played on it, his most out of anything in his career so far. And hoping it's able to deliver the goods this time around.
And it's most likely the most banned away from him as well. So it is one of those champions that if he gets it, he'll be super stoked because he very rarely did. But just quickly speaking towards his opponent here as well, Galio, not something you often see in solo queue, is a champion kind of similar to Ryze, will just occasionally appear in meta, in competitive instead. So good for team play, for team coordinated movements. Has a Vi to dive and has a Galio ultimate to follow through. Makes it really nice. And then of course you've got the Lulu that can use the ultimate and continue that knock-up chain and just lock people down. And it is also, just while we are noting that, an abundance of knock-ups, right? Not just stuns, not easily cleansed abilities. You can see Voice has gone for the heal. Instead of that cleanse, so opting out of the more difficult to execute summoner spell perhaps. Does also mean Merc Treads is rushable for Dongy, which is really valuable into a Sejuani and a Zoe.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say, there's certainly a lot of area denial more than anything, right, when you complement it with the stun CC setup that you highlight. But I think above that, again, is the fact that they will have all this global pressure to rotate to these lanes very easily to force a numbers advantage. We're seeing a skirmish breakout once again. First of all, in the river, double jungle, that's what they're about. The 2v2 also getting excited about it. Not literally, because Voice right now is on the receiving end of a fair bit of damage. Shernfire flashing in, looking to try and secure a first block, which he will do so successfully. And Dajong with the spell thief will flash away to safety, hanging on to his own. Everybody in the river right now, still keen to try and find that inch to break the mile. But the knock-up comes across onto Entrust. Dongy cops the ignite. Voice in trouble. And Dajong gone for the meantime.
And a really tense little skirmish there. Pensinet very clearly coming out on top, finding 2 kills for 0 as a transaction and as a trade. They're going to get their recalls cancelled by Entrust, but he is overstepping his bounds to do so. So still needs to respect. But the more that he can stop their bases, the more tempo he can buy, which means Akano is able to get back onto the rift, clear this Scuttle Crab, and perhaps even look at another camp before they get back out themselves. But still, it's going to be huge for PGG.
Let's run it back with this replay first of all, because it really was a fight on multiple fronts.
Yeah, it's a fight on 2 fronts, but look at the way that Pensinet will position themselves through their bot lane 2v2, right? Once they start to get a bit of a handle on the lane, Shernfire comes down. Appy still stays closer to the river. Dongy comes in to assist, Shernfire comes in, but Appy's going to get there first. So they have numbers to these plays, which means that Mammoth just getting their second every single time makes it harder. They'll look for Appy, but he's able to keep the flash, and now they have a collapse. So just in the way that Mammoth played this little skirmish out, they effectively had maybe an idea that was passable, but they pincered themselves, right? They collapsed upon themselves, and just by sheer execution and positioning, PGG just had it a little bit better.
No, they certainly do. And once again, a devastating consequence is the fact that you now have given across a kill to Shernfire to get ahead in the jungle one more time, and a kill to Violet also, as Zeri, which has certainly been taking the world by storm again. And with an invitation like that, can certainly do it one more time. There are the stats last time Violet's been given the opportunity to play at the split.
When all said and done as well, Skimmy, the only person with a summoner spell left after that trade is going to be Violet with his flash. Everything else is completely gone, which means the map state right now is so volatile. Junglers that can get active, supports that can roam. There's so much that they can get done as they are looking.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the fact that ultimates will be online for these junglers to then revisit before those flashes become available again, and then it really becomes a dicey situation.
Also, while we're looking at it, Chippies has gone for the Ignite. So isn't going to be playing for his teleporters top lane. Seems to be much more kill-centric at the moment. Was Ghost in the first game, Ignite in the second.
How hilarious is that, given that he said that, you know, I don't want to try and bash my my lane opponent.
Yeah.
I want to try and be more macro-focused. And he just said, you know what? No, I do, in fact, want to do that.
Well, hey, maybe he has such good macro he doesn't need the teleport
He's
anymore.
so good at the game, TP's overrated. It's a crutch.
quick good night there for Dongi. Will take some extra damage. Zoe did receive some buffs for specifically next damage instance dealt while asleep. Huge damage amplification actually, and one of the reasons I think that Zoe can be pickable as Violet.
Oh, great flash away, dodging at the grand entrance as Akano comes in now. Instant polymorph though dissuades his idea of trying to find that kill onto Appy, but still they persevere. Stun passive connects, Appy living as long as he can, making sure that it is voiced to pick it up. Now excited, looking for a second. Chompers go out, but Schönfei's in trouble. Two-man knock up this time. Schönfei has to turn around. He can't find it.
Violet.
Look how low they all are. Violet, 1, 2,
He's got 2.
No way! He
Zoe
just got a
comes in,
triple
though.
kill, and then Dajong answers back and says, stop the party. Wow.
Okay, I mean, the party crasher of Dajong does come in to make sure they get it back, but 3 kills for Violet. Top fighting as well, Skibby. Ignite used, but no kills seeming like they're going to happen. Violet just built different, man. Star of the show.
Something about that particular part of the bush where it's a 1v3 situation. We saw it yesterday, but this time it worked out.
And it does feel like after this couple of weeks, we know Pentanet are a top team. We know that Mammoth were just going to be perpetually underdogs in this matchup, but it feels like there's just this little extra layer of confidence behind the Pentanet boys. That's the type of play that you don't get as much from Violet in the weeks prior, right? Much more on the passive side, but Story's moment, played the clutch flip out and succeeded.
They certainly did, and if I was singing his praises before at a 1-0 lead in lane, now 4-1 with a bounty. Tier 2 boots complete are going to rock up to this next major skirmish. So far ahead. Let's run it back one more time on the replay here.
And the big thing here is Appy uses his polymorph on Akano as all of the spells have already been buffered, so it's actually not going to provide anything. The Q connects, the W flail still hits. I would be wishing that he had that polymorph afterwards, either for voice to deny damage here, that's lethal onto him, especially with 10 minions hitting. That could have been time for the reinforcements to come through, but nice knock up from Entrust. They look for the first kill, they'll get it. Jinx, while excited, has mana, but Violet had just dashed, so was able to get the auto attacks that passed through everybody off. Gets the triple, just barely, but a Dajong does shut it down at the end.
At least there is that silver lining to be excited about as a Mammoth fan. It is a very similar vein to game 1 where they find themselves down by 2k gold. A face check after the dragon, Dajong in trouble. A 2-man collapse, a flash across the wall. Flash to match. Buffers it with a turnaround for a second there. And Schönfei finds his second of the game.
Absolutely perfect layering of CC there from Schönfire and Dongi. They make sure that Dajong, while having flash next to a wall, is locked down for as long as possible. It does mean that an ultless Vi is looking bottom. Akano here though, and they will see the Vi now.
They most certainly will. So Lightning Crash starts it up. First of all, Flash, Glacial Prison, lock in place. Violet makes sure he can't look to try and be a montage hero once again. Rocket Launcher secures it. Shutdown. That's what Voice needs. Now in comes Schönfire, laying some justice damage onto Akano, who's going to be the first casualty. That's to be picked up by Appy. 2-man taught by Dongi. And now Voice is gone as well. He finds his first kill of the game. They're looking for an absolute bit of annihilation. And that's what they'll get now.
And they might get Violet. They make the play the best that they possibly could. They see Vi and they see how far away Schönfire is from the play. They choose to go forwards. But at the same time, this mid lane, you see Dongi here first every single time. This has been a constant issue that Mammoth have had to face. His Dajong's been playing well, has been finding kills, is applying damage when it comes to it. But when it comes to map movements, no one's faster than Dongi.
No, certainly on the champion that can roam as easily as a Galio. Once again, it all starts by Mammoth trying to be aggressive to shut down the Zeri show.
And first and foremost, CC Chain knocks up, they lock Violet down, flash forwards from Voice to secure it, gets excited, they look for more. But then they really just bottleneck themselves while moving towards Pentanet, moving towards Schönfire. They weren't moving away towards their own turret, and they just get stuck in the middle of the lane. A little chain of damage there from Dongi and Appy will make sure they get the third one with a double-handed smash onto the noggin of Entrust.
And as soon as those summoners came back up and available, they've been put on cooldown once again. So still a very volatile state with not much mobility to get yourselves out of harm's way. Expect to see the aggression continue towards this bottom lane, even if there is no dragon to play for.
Good vigilance here by Pentanet. They know that Mammoth were moving down. 4 members were in the area. Top lane once again going to have a fight. We'll see if a kill happens, because it's very unlikely. Chippies just seems to be pressing ult and ignite off cooldown and then recalling. the old tempo ability spam.
Oh, this is how you make sure you get a TP
That's
for
macro.
free. Yeah, there is your macro, isn't it? Wave crashing. I can go back to base every single time for free and lose nothing.
Violet actually needs to be a little bit careful here, but does have the summoners. I think his flash is up in like 2 seconds. Hard to see exactly. But he's not being aggressive, he's not overstepping and not pushing the lane just yet. Waiting. And Trust not level 6.
And just waiting next to a wall as well, right? Making sure that if anything were to catch him off surprise, can instantly dash for free.
And because Entrust isn't 6, Akano has to be the engage. And so they don't want to go for the Zeri, they have to go for the Lulu. And Appy was standing even further away than Violet.
Yeah. Still forced at the flash, but it completely dissuaded the idea that a gank was going to be successful. Now Schoenfire comes in and says, enough of that. I'm here, so don't get any wrong ideas. Dongi now also in the area. We've seen this play out so many times during a regular split here for PGG. The classic 4-man dive onto bot. A start and Battery to start things off. The CC layering. Voice, good night. Now, second target in sight. It is Akano who dashes to safety, but is he really safe? He is for the meantime, but that tower is most certainly not.
And such simple execution from Pentanet once again. Herald to be summoned, turret to fall, and this game goes from bad to worse for Mammoth. Already a 5,000 gold difference. It will just continue to stretch. 12 minutes in. Chippies has become a jungler. He's a Krug Goblin.
He can play everything.
Yeah, the small ones are worth the most. It's worth it.
He can do everything. But what can Chi-Chi do to answer back now? We're massive health advantage. He's denying as much as he can.
Top lane's such an experience, isn't it?
It's a
You do
journey.
this crazy dive bottom lane. 4-man plays, they're coordinating. Top laners are 1v1ing for a Krug camp. It's like,
I need that 10 gold.
God damn, those little baby Krugs are worth 13 gold, did you say? All in.
That really is about as hype as it gets up here in top lane for the meantime. As we continue to watch them just trading out CS, but yeah, so far the trade has played off in you know, successful fashion. You can see that there's major CS leads to talk about across the board, and no more so than in the AD carry role.
Absolutely, the AD carry farming difference, to be honest, between both games has been significant. And this one is no exception, as we are looking back at top lane for a brief moment. We'll see if it results in anything, as there is a jungler here this time. And a support. Pentanet putting 0 effort towards this because they're playing towards the Drake. First bait, does he go for the cannon? He doesn't overcommit for the cannon, but misses it. And now a big wave crashes. And Trust doesn't know what he wants, because he's been spotted.
Well, that's just it. Am I clearing this ward? I am. Dominus has to go out because he needs to try and trim this wave. First of all, the passive, the heal. Look at that. So much damage to trim the wave. Now you're tanking a turret, and for no good reason. Akano is gone,
Happy.
and literally will be in just a second. Might die to a Lulu of all things. That is a nightmare.
Violet's coming. He's got a wall to jump over as well.
Here we go. Zeri skating, jumping in, finding the target they're after, and it seems to be a case of Entrust, you need to burn that ultimate or your entire team is dead. It can certainly be made the case that your mid lane is gone, and we just picked up another dragon.
And the action and reaction of this game at the moment is just impossibly difficult for Mammoth. They try and do this play top as a trade for the Drake, but Entrust and Akano aren't on the same planet, let alone the same page. And then the dive happens, but Rakan's not there. And it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough League of Legends to be able to take it to a team like Pentanet.gg, who will punish that with no issue whatsoever.
None at all, and that's a big reason why they find themselves up by 7k gold, now hitting the magical 15-minute mark. That tends to be the break-even point as we move into the skirmish part of the game, at a laning phase, and into really just how strong we can be, forcing fights on cooldown. Akano once again forgetting about these jungle camps, more interested in ganking, and that has to really be the reality for them so far. As it's going to be a Sejuani and a Zoe
Schoenfire's on the way.
taking down a Renekton. It will be that 2v2 in just a second. Chippy's buying as much time as he can. No flash, no ult, but still finds that kill. Decimates the mid lane mage. As Akano's forced to flash away, but gets chased on down by the Vi. And now Entrust is a passenger to the devastation that his team is receiving.
And Schoenfire wants it. He's
Oh,
under
flashing.
turret.
He's absolutely diving for it. The heal is just good enough. The ult.
Vi Q greater than everything is what Entrust has just learned. Tries his best, but best is not going to be enough to get through it. We joked about Schoenfire being a via one trick, but what it does mean is he knows his limits quite well. Confident enough to go for that tower dive and makes the play happen. And really, we just saw Mammoth make the most desperate move they possibly could, which is back-to-back attempts onto a Renekton's life. And I think he's going to survive for enough time for anyone to get there. And that's really all it took.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad state of affairs there, to say the least. The fact that this game has snowballed that much faster than it did in game 1, and that was a Wukong that was 6-1. Now we find ourselves in a similar vein where it's Schoenfire at 4-1, just at ease, at home, and really showing how big the canyon is, how big the divide is between both junglers.
And just a reminder for everyone listening as well that the winner of this best of 3 series goes on to face Direwolves. The loser of Direwolves versus the winner of this series will play the loser of this series. So it could just be that Pentanet 2-0 and versus Mammoth if they lose to Direwolves twice.
Well, maybe that reality is one step closer now. It's a 5v4 right off the bat as Violet finds that entrance into this team fight. He's received the ultimate, he's got the tools, he's got the team to back him up. Schoenfire takes the second. Chippy's with the biggest wraparound as an Ignite Renekton.
Hello.
He's blast coned himself in, said, I don't think you noticed me. So you're gone. You are not allowed to recall. I'll give you a quicker one back to that fountain.
Grey screen simulator. Pentanet will just barrel down, take the objectives, take the fights, take the turrets. This game is certainly no longer close. It's simply no longer close. This series is simply no longer close. There's one team just a little bit too good in this best of.
Certainly feels like an understatement. 10k down with everything going the way of Pentanet. It won't be a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but they've managed to get the Heralds, the Dragons, the team fight success.
They may finish this best of 3 series in a shorter amount of time than a single best of 1 was in our regular round robin. We're looking at 35 minutes of gameplay.
Certainly is gearing up towards that. And how does that affect the mental of Mammoth now, knowing that this is the current state of affairs that you find yourself in?
We've changed to the Radiant Virtue vibe, by the way. We've moved on to the Evanfrost.
Oh, okay.
We've mixed it up. Bit of a damage amplification from targets that you apply hard crowd control to. So I guess with that in mind, Vibe presses R, and it has a similar effect instead of a heal, an ability haste. Just lets you do more damage. So you got a Blade of the Ruin King Renekton, right, that you can go towards, and I think that's going to be a whole lot of damage. They combo that together.
Well, let's just get a cheeky Prowler's Claw in there as well and get a one-shot. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm sure Maximize is sitting at home cheering.
Screaming at his monitor.
Prowler's Claw Renekton.
Absolutely. Well, where do you turn your attention to now? Because everywhere you go, it is just death. It really is that easy right now for Violet and the squad to stare you down, and that alone is terrifying. I mean, they just found a double kill. They're going to open up the mid inhibitor before 20 minutes. And whilst that can be a concern in some game states, it's certainly not to be one in this. Chippy's not going to die, has the dominance effect.
He's playing a different game to the rest of his team, though. They're looking to end Skibby.
I mean, he really is. He's like saying, why are you still here? Your base is about to die. It's below 20 minutes, Rusty. Can you believe what I'm saying? Shelly is still alive. 4 HP. Start dancing. It's a rave. You've got no one to defend this base. It's the ace. It's the game.
2 HP.
And it's a dancing Herald. Come on, make it happen.
I can't believe she survived.
She's done it.
We've got the Dancing Herald, and it is going to be a pretty clean 2-0 victory here for Pentanet.gg. By far the better team in this series, which does progress them to their next round against Direwolves and puts Mammoth into the lower bracket, which puts them in elimination games from here on out.
Yes, yes. A bit of a humbling, I think, is really what we took away from that game, that there's a reason why PGG are as good as they are, why they've won championships before, and why, what on earth are we doing here, Kitty? What is happening? You move the camera over. What is this?
I don't know. As Kitty
the
came
Shelly
in.
dance.
She's become the Herald.
It's the Shelly dance. What do you mean? How did you not know?
So
She
Kitty
was
came
dancing
in,
with Shelly.
looked at us, started laughing, and then just went back there and started dancing. It was like, I mean.
Oh, dear. What a day.
Put
10
your
out of
mic
10.
on,
10
Kitty.
out of 10. Congratulations. Kitty's learning. Kitty's dancing. Kitty's killing it. Kitty needs to put a headset on so we can talk to her. But look, that game was fast. And Rusty, you're right. What was that? 25 minutes plus 19 and a half minutes, give or take half a minute. What's that? Huh? 40, 46,
40,
45, 46
Never
minutes.
do math on
Yeah,
stream
yeah.
is what I've learned.
Insanity.
I just thought he was going to do it, and then he asked me.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying any attention.
Threw you under the bus, eh?
I
My
was,
bad.
you know, when I ask, but like I know, but it's just like my thinking time.
Yeah. No, I understand.
That's what happens.
Okay.
Either way, vibe was good. Yeah.
Yeah, before everyone starts memeing how I fell over, that wasn't a mistake. That was on purpose because after Shelly danced, the Nexus fell over. That was all planned, okay, everyone?
Get it?
Don't get it
Huh?
mixed up. Does that
Thinker.
mean everything on
Big
TV is
brain.
scripted? Yeah, it is.
Insanity. Well, look, there's not a lot to say about that game. You guys didn't have to
So
say a lot
tricky.
because it was so quick. Mammoth, of course, now going down to that lower bracket, so it's a little unfortunate for them. But as we said at the start of the day, it definitely wasn't unexpected. You know, having PGG coming in, they were the heavy favourites. And let's just talk about this quickly, Kitty. We were counting the missed autos by voice because things might not have gone.
One auto cancel.
Yep.
2 auto cancels, and that was the difference with Violet dying in this play, and he gets a triple kill into his pockets, and the game was pretty much over. I mean, you have a Galio, you have a Vi, you have a Lulu Kitten. You aren't dying as a Zeri in this game, especially given such an early lead. I mean, he did make some mistakes, but that's just from pure hard force from the side of Mammoth. But when it did come to these team fights, and later on when the Flash wasn't available on the Jinx, I mean, you saw how many dives were being made in that bottom side, and I'm pretty surprised because we did see the Aatrox coming in for the final pick for Mammoth this game, but we didn't see too much out of this lane matchup in the top side because top lane's just a 1v1 matchup unless you pick something that's hard winning and can carry you in the side lane later on. I mean, you have the Zoe and Jinx to rely on for these bottom side fights, but you are just never winning a skirmish up against something that is the Galleon, the Vi from the side of PGG tonight.
Look, I guess we can have a quick discussion, like who's the MVP for PGG, because it feels like everyone was just running away with it in both games.
That's a good question, actually. I didn't even consider that there has to be an MVP, doesn't there?
Yeah, their MVP coming at some point. The guys in Twitch chat gets to decide that though, so it doesn't really matter. Not that job anymore. You guys get on it quickly. Either way, look, big win, big game. Less phone bars, less actual bars as well, although if you flip it, maybe Mammoth looks kind of like some phone signal. Any other stats that are important other than phone signals here on the stats screen?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing the Jinx for the first time in this split where it is technically a hyper carry up against something like the Zeri, but you really need to consider what the enemy team has. Look at their composition. They looked in the Vi, Gallia, and Renekton. I mean, you have to play perfectly in these team fights before you get jumped on and pretty much CC'd to death. And we saw that happening for this game where the Jinx actually did less damage than the Sejuani, so it's perfectly reflecting on why the Jinx isn't as popular of a champion. I mean, we do have a lot of people playing something like the Jhin as a response. I mean, Rusty even mentioned that Rakan with Jinx is a little bit odd. And Jhin, I know it's not a hyper carry and Voice loves to carry and do damage, but this champion probably just wasn't it. And compared to the other side, I mean, I love PGG's team composition. It was very straightforward, it was very easy to execute, press 2 buttons, and it got the job done.
Another thing that makes me know it was a very fast game is Akano still had his jungle item. That's when you know.
True,
right? That's
true,
just,
yeah.
That's
Couldn't
just
finish
when you
it.
know it's been a real quick game if someone's still got their
I
jungle
mean,
item.
legend has it he's still ganking bot lane, to be fair.
Well, look,
Wasn't
someone
really
that
good
might
game.
have been on the other end of that, of course, was Violet. Did you feel like they were just trying to target you in
The
bot
boys.
lane? Everyone's real happy, huh? Look, you're enjoying that W, I guess.
Okay, dude. Sorry, I couldn't hear your question. These guys were barking in the background.
How was... All right, beautiful. Well, you know, it had something to do with what we were talking about. Doesn't matter. How'd that win go? Were you happy with your performance? You know, you managed to fend off that 1v3 in the bot lane in that game. In the second game, you know, all things going your way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy about our overall team performance. I think I played, like, okay that game. So, I mean, I'd say I'm just mostly just happy about how we ended the game together as a team. It was, like, a pretty clean win, besides, like, a few mistakes from me. But other than that, it was good.
That's completely fine because we can fix on those mistakes for the next group stage, of course. And congratulations on a clean 2-0 from me as well. I just wanted to talk about this new PGG that we have been seeing. So you have obviously been a big reason why PGG has been able to pick up so many wins, and I just wanted to ask, do you really have any concerns going to the next group stage where you will be potentially versing someone like Raze or someone that is even stronger than that?
I haven't really thought about too much, honestly, who I'm, like, playing against in, like, the next brackets. I think playing, like, the scrims against the PCS and Vietnamese teams, I think they're, like, their mentality is on, like, a different level. they always try to end games as fast as possible, and they play like super aggressive. So honestly, I haven't been thinking about like who I'm playing against at all. So I wouldn't say like it goes in my mind too much, to be honest.
Okay, well, what are you going to do for the next couple of days? Because, of course, with this win, it means you don't have to play tomorrow. You get to wait till next week. You're going to sit back and watch the games, or are you just going to get back to business, get back to practice?
I mean, we're probably just going to go back to scrimming and, yeah, watching VOD, scrimming, just the usual schedule and routine. I don't think we're going to exactly be analyzing the LCO games too much.
And we saw how the team synergy looked in that background as we had the PGG celebrations coming back, making its return for 2023. And I just wanted to talk about, I saw you guys going to the beach, hanging out with everyone. So how are you guys enjoying Perth, and what's the team environment like? And who is the funniest one out of the entire PGG roster?
I'd say we're all enjoying Perth, honestly. I think most of us got sunburned on the day at the beach,
Oh,
so
no.
that was like pretty annoying. But I'd say Perth is honestly, the weather is not as bad as I thought it'd be. Like, it's a little hot sometimes, but it's like my lifestyle isn't really much different. And I'd probably say Shern or Appy is like the funniest people, in my opinion, on the team. So
I'm just disappointed. When did you forget that slip, slop, slap's the thing? Did no one ever teach you? Have you not touched grass enough?
we put sunscreen on, but some of us still got sunburnt. So
How long were you there?
we were there for like hours, I think, like 3+ hours.
You'd have to be. That would make sense. The science says so. Look, either way, Violet, look, we'll let you go. Enjoy the win, and we'll see you next week for potentially another win.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Always good to chat with him. Still disappointed. As an ex-lifesaver myself, slip, slop, and slap, please seek shade. There's other S's in there that they've added over time as well.
Is there?
Avoid the sun. Stay inside. There's probably another S. Stay
6 feet apart.
inside. Yep.
Don't worry.
That definitely starts with S. You know what? I'll give you this one.
Can't get sunburned if you stay inside.
I was trying to think of other ones. I don't
Well,
know.
It's flawless.
guys, guess what? You know how I said we don't have to pick the Dare MVP?
Oh, we do?
Guess what?
Oh, we do?
There's a tie.
Oh.
There's a tie?
There's a tie. Twitch chat
Oh.
couldn't decide. Not enough people were biased to one player or the other. So,
Shernfire and Violet.
yep. We have to decide out of those two who it is. So who's flipping the coin or making a decision? That would be great.
I'm going to just say Shernfire.
I'm going to say
I'm
Shern.
going to say Shernfire.
Showfire, congratulations.
We flipped the coin and landed on Shernfire.
Crazy jungler and ready to box, ready to fight. Always big traps, big buys.
0 wards place. It's not Shernfire.
Okay, it's
It's not
Violet.
sure, it's fine.
Violet.
Can we change the graphic? Change the graphic. Not my jungler.
Did he actually not play wards?
Nah, I can't.
Hey, let's show it on here. Hey,
Nah,
bloody, ooh.
wards don't do damage, and the
Kana
kill
was the ward for
participation
him, bro.
explains that
That is
perfectly.
so
88, I mean, wards don't go towards kill Move on.
They should add a
only
ward
halfway through.
assistance. They should add a ward assistance stat where like someone runs over a ward, they get pinged for like 30 seconds or like a minute and then they die. Stats.
Oh, wards get an assist. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what you mean. Sorry.
Do you like that?
I thought you meant someone was assisting
Come
with
on, right.
wards. And I was like, that's.
Do you know what I mean though? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like vision assistance.
Yeah. Vision got that kill.
It's like how Ashe, if you get someone that hasn't
Yeah.
been seen, then you get an assist from it.
It's like when I Soraka ult just to get an assist in top lane.
Dark
look-
Seal value. New.
Yeah,
Let's not get our hopes up because I really hope I could talk to Riot one day, but my suggestions are just going in the bin. Look, but that was a good suggestion. That's a good stat. We have some good suggestions for permabands as well from you guys at home. From the fans' time, what have you been sending in? Everyone's really getting around it today, and that's what we love to see. Ooh, hello. Someone's friend here, Mr. Pastry Time, coming in with the Draven permaban. Understandable. Look, obviously he's not a T1 fan.
Draven's a very good answer, but I didn't know that Pastry played bot lane. So I actually am surprised that his answer is Draven. I thought he was like a mid laner.
Well, he's been overseas for a while now. You never know what he's doing over there.
3 years, yeah, it's true. Nah, Draven, good answer.
Raven's a pretty
Respect.
good answer. All right, let's have a look at another one here. Who've we got coming through as number 2? Sav, big man. Nick Bobby.
He's made a list.
Okay,
Tree.
he's tapped it on his phone and taken a screenshot.
I like the edit.
Look, I don't know what side we're on. Ban, Tree, Silas,
censored
Head.
Oh, this
one.
is his feedback to Babip at Worlds.
Ah, right.
Just ban the Tree.
Just ban the tree. Take play. There's a lot of censored words there. Atrox. Oh, that could just be.
You dropped an A on Aatrox, King.
Yeah. Atrox. MF.
Aatrox. Come on.
Mind Freak. I didn't even know they were here. Amumu. Graves, Hecarim, and this is just rambling.
We
I
may
can't
have
even
got
read
a
it
win.
properly.
If this had got to Babbitt, maybe we'd have won one game.
Do you think
at Worlds.
Babbitt
That's so
read
true.
this and like took it in?
Maybe that's why.
Do you think he just like, oh, Nick sent
Maybe
this
that's
on.
why it didn't go that well, because he read this and was like, oh, we're banning tree! Ban the tree!
I mean, in hindsight, tree ban very good, especially
Very
in this
good.
season.
He's
You're looking at
predicted the
tree
meta.
ban.
Yeah,
I think, hey, he's pulled that
Ivan's
out.
crazy.
Amumu?
Yeah.
Ban Amumu?
Sav is literally the ghostwriter for patch 13.3.
Yeah.
Facts.
Okay, we see Sev.
Thanks, Sav.
The
Thanks, Sav.
future.
Who else do we have for a permaban? Solan says Z in mid. Even stopwatch isn't enough to stop him from countering my mains. Understandable.
Elaborate. What are the mains? How does stopwatch not counter it? That's what we need to know. There's got to be more lore to this conversation.
Well, probably bad movement, no escape. So even after the
my main
stopwatch,
champion is bad movement.
you're still yep.
Okay.
A champ that
I
has
mean that
bad
too.
movement.
I mean that
Rusty.
too. That's why I play Bard, because then you can cheat with Portal. Bad movement covered.
Well, that's why I play Nocturne, because I have bad pathing, so I can cheat.
I have good
ganks.
movement.
Yep,
Bad pathing covered.
yep, 100%. So play a champ that covers your weaknesses, and that's what we learnt today, thanks to From the Fans. And on that note, look, that's game one done. In terms of the bracket, of course, Mammoth now in the lower bracket, PGG going to fight Direwolves sometime next week. But we still have one more best of three today. And ladies and gents, that's coming up just after the break. We got Chiefs, we got GZ going toe-to-toe in, yes, it's an extended break.
8 o'clock.
We'll see you back here a little bit before
Bye.
8 p.m. for the game and menu log meal time.
8 o'clock.
Oh, great flash away, dodging out the grand entrance as Akano comes in now. Instant polymorph though dissuades his idea of trying to find that kill onto Appy, but still they persevere. Stun passive connects, Appy living as long as he can, making sure that it is voiced to pick it up. Now excited, looking for a second. Chompers go out, but Schönfei's in trouble. Two-man knock up this time. Schönfei has to turn around. He can't find it.
Violet.
Look how low they all are. Violet, 1, 2,
He's got
3.
two.
No!